Hey, podcast pals. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Take it from me as a newly married guy with a very opinionated dog, comfort is kind of important right now. That's why I'm a Smart Club member of Standard Heating. I get to schedule service when it actually works for me, pay how I want, and choose what fits our home best. Pick the HVAC company that treats you like family, not just another name on the list. That's Standard. Check out standardheating.com and tell them Dana sent you.
The 93X Half-Assed Morning Show. 93.
All right, might as well go ahead with it. Might as well go ahead with the midweek version of what we call here the 93X Half-Assed Morning Show. Oh, God help us all. How you doing over there, Cubby?
Every day's better than the next.
Don't I know it?
A little worse than yesterday, but better than tomorrow.
Don't I friggin' know it that each day is a little better than the next. You know, Josh, with the Twins starting so late this week, their ball games are starting so late this week, 9 o'clock starts out there in California. I've had an opportunity to watch some television programming, and you know that's something I almost never do. So I got around to watching the latest episode of The Family Guy.
Nice.
You wanted me to see last night's, or pardon me, what day is it today? Wednesday. You wanted me to see Sunday's episode?
Sundays,
okay.
Yeah.
You wanted me to dial that up on Hulu because it featured a scene that had a significant impact on your life. You explained all this to us yesterday. A scene where lead female character Lois Griffin masturbates.
For the first time in her life.
First time in her life. I watched the scene. Thank you for giving me a reminder last night to watch the... I'm sorry to say it didn't have the same effect on me.
Well, you knew it was what was going to happen.
I did.
Yeah, so I was completely unprepared. And I had a feeling we'd have different, versions of how we took it.
Hey, cartoon masturbation affects different people in different ways.
It does.
But I just...
And you've seen some of the porn she's done, right?
Yeah.
See, I've never seen anything like that. Never once. Did it disturb you that her daughter was trying to, not force her, but convince her to masturbate?
Not at all.
Help her with her journey.
That didn't disturb you?
Not at all.
Well, that kind of ruined it for me a little bit.
Yeah, so I just wanted to get back to you.
I had a feeling. I pretty much knew that you were going to, because it wasn't going to be the same. You knew that it was coming, pardon the pun. You've seen a lot of her cartoon pornography.
I've seen a lot of filthy programming overall in my life.
Yeah, this was all new to me.
It was a fun idea, don't get me wrong, fun idea where a character on your cartoon comedy show has never masturbated before and tries it for the very first time.
Yeah.
The scene was actually a lot cleaner than I thought it would be.
I agree. I watched it yesterday, too. It wasn't as filthy as I thought, because Family Guy likes to kind of push that filth envelope, and it wasn't as dirty as I kind of anticipated.
Yeah, it was more the, I hope I didn't say it was dirty, but it was more just you knew what was happening. The part I said I was surprised by is you kind of see her hand slowly go down the blanket, or underneath the blanket.
One line from the scene that I laughed out loud at was... Before Lois tries masturbation, she walks into her teenage son's room. His name is
Chris.
Corey. Chris. She walks into Chris's bedroom, and she says, "Hey, when did you get a model of the Washington Monument?"
Oh, yeah.
That's what started everything.
That's what started it all. So, I mean, I just wanted to make sure you knew that I watched the episode. We had different reactions to it. It was kind of funny. Before me and my wife, I'd love for all of you to meet her someday. My wife and I went out to dinner last night, and I told her, I said, "Hey, do we have Hulu?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, when we get back to the house, would you show me how to operate Hulu? Because Josh wants me to watch this episode of Family Guy." And she said, "Well, what's so special about this episode of And I said, Lois, she's never watched the Family Guy.
Oh, she's never seen it?
Oh, I'm sure she's never saw it.
Oh, that surprises me.
She thinks that all that stuff is silly. Anyway, I told her, I said, one of the characters on the show, Lois, she masturbates for the first time on this episode of The Family Guy, and Josh said it really impacted his life, and he wants me to watch the show. And she said, yeah, all right, whatever all that means. When we get home, I'll show you how to turn on Hulu. So we get back to the house, she puts it on the right channel, whatever, and she says, all right, I'll go to the other room to watch TV so you can enjoy your animated female masturbation show.
I almost wish you would have framed it before going to Do We Have Hulu? And there's a show called Family Guy, which she's never seen, you say, but I'm sure she's heard of. I wish you would have phrased it like this. Hey, when we get home, Josh wants me to watch a cartoon character masturbate.
Yeah.
just laid it out like that directly rather than couching it by saying Hulu and Family Guy.
Oh, so...
One thing I did appreciate was the title. I thought was kind of clever. Cool Hand Lois.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
They are pretty good at coming up with the titles for those shows.
They are.
But she's still one hot mama.
Yes, she is.
Sure is.
How about how Quagmire responded a couple times? That was good. And then the scene where Peter's talking about getting cuckolded. That was pretty funny.
They still can knock out a funny television program now and again.
This season's been a little more hit than miss, where in the past it was kind of the opposite.
I watched something else, too, last night. Again, like I was telling you, I've got all this extra time with the Twins starting so late in the evening. Something else that I walked away disappointed. 651-989-9393. That's the text number to get a hold of us here. Text me if you can tell me, maybe there's someone in the room that can tell me, how does the movie Teen Wolf 2... TOO from 1988. How does that movie end, starring Jason Bateman? How does Teen Wolf 2 end? Does anyone know?
I've never seen it.
Now, I know how the original Teen Wolf from 1985, I know how that movie ends. Michael J. Fox's basketball team wins the big game, and then a man in the stands swings his exposed penis around the gym. I know how that one... The second one, I was left guessing. I had never saw it. It's all the way back from 1988. Right as the climactic final scene was playing itself out, Josh, my television gave way on me. It froze up, and I didn't get to see the ending of Teen Wolf 2.
Oh, that sucks. It froze on you?
Jason Bateman's character was in a boxing match against, some other guy who's a total...
boxes?
Yes.
Like, it is like competitive boxing? Or
college boxing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Would you like me to read you the last sentence or two description on Wikipedia?
That's what I'm looking for, is how does the movie Teen Wolf 2 end?
After losing round after round...
Yeah, I saw him. He lost the first 2 rounds.
And nearly getting knocked out, Todd is tempted to become the wolf.
Todd Howard, okay, Josh, just some background. Todd Howard is the character name who can become a wolf when he wants to. He was tempted to become the wolf?
Tempted to become the wolf.
Yes.
Until he sees Nikki mouth the words, I love you.
That's his woman, Nikki.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they had sex.
This gives him the strength to overcome Gus and knocks him out to a roaring ovation.
All right. And
So instead of basketball, like the original Teen Wolf, boxing is his sport?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any backflips on top of moving vehicles like the original?
I don't remember that from last night when I, for the first time in my life, watched Teen Wolf 2 starring Jason Bateman. I wonder if Jason Bateman's friends still bust his chops about that.
They 100% do.
They do?
Yeah.
They have to.
On his podcast, they bust his chops for it.
Do they really?
Oh, yeah. He's got a good sense of humor about it.
He has to.
Eastbound at Sundown, Jesus said no one has ever finished Teen Wolf 2.
There is no ending, actually, Nick. When your TV went out, that's because they just decided to stop making the movie. Like, it's good as it is.
And they realized as they were making it, like, listen, nobody's going to make it this
Nobody ever got through it?
Yeah, there's no point continuing. Let's just end it.
Nobody could ever stand to get through the whole thing?
Yeah, the very end says, cut to commercial and then never go back.
Just fades to black.
It makes sense because no one here on our text machine has been able to tell me what Dana just told me.
Yeah, we haven't gotten one text on
No,
it.
that's great.
Nobody finished the damn thing. I enjoyed it.
I never even started it.
I enjoyed it.
And
All right.
I think Jason Bateman's hilarious. He's one of those guys that can play a douche so well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Same with
Plays a douche well.
yeah.
Huh?
Oh God, not Falco. I was gonna get. There's a more famous.
Scott Baio.
No, there's a more famous one, and then the younger one's named David.
Oh, the Franco brothers.
Franco, yes.
Franco.
Dave Franco. That guy plays a douche awesomely.
What are some Jason Bateman projects where he plays a great douche? I'm not as familiar with his stuff
Really, all of them?
as you guys.
Yeah, all of them.
Oh, I thought
he's always kind of a little prick.
Yeah, he's always just kind of a biting, sarcastic jerk.
Yeah.
He's a very likable.
And he's very good at it.
So, gosh, I love him.
Very likable actor. All right, speaking of all this Hollywood, movies, this, that, I really got a kick out of this conversation that popped up on the godless, soulless, evil. Are they informed, Josh, or are they misinformed?
Depends on the website.
A lot of times,
and what radio station they're talking about.
Yeah, a lot of times it comes off wildly misinformed.
But there's a lot of confidence behind that misinformation.
Oh,
God.
there has to be.
Dead set,
Then it's convincing.
brutally confident in their misinformation.
And great takes. Great takes. And you know what? Well-placed anger.
Yes.
In the right direction.
Social media. This is a fun conversation that at least I found it to be, that popped up. Someone started talking about, Josh, one of your Eskimo brothers, Dennis Rodman. People have been talking about.
God, if I ever am an Eskimo brother with Dennis Rodman, I hope I was first. I wouldn't want to follow that.
Yeah.
That's how COVID started.
Oh!
Sharing seconds with Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman, people were talking about. And they were specifically talking about the great run he had in the 90s. The Post said something along the lines of, Dennis Rodman in the 90s went on one of the best runs in pop culture history. Dennis Rodman at the time, in the early to mid-90s, was dating, in my opinion, one of the hottest mamas ever, Carmen's Electra. Okay? He was dating Carmen's Electra. He was playing for the Chicago Bulls and pulling down world championships, with the help of that friggin' prick, Mike Jordan. He was a member of the NWO.
That's the coolest part.
Wrestling stable in World Championship Wrestling. And he had a movie or two with him and Jean-Claude Van Damme or
Jackie Chan or something, I don't remember.
Okay? That is a hell of a resume.
Yeah.
In a good couple years there.
In a couple years' time, right? So people started talking about some of the best runs in all of entertainment / movies / sports. Talking about people like Bo Jackson. And go ahead and text us if anyone comes to mind. Just an unbelievable run. Originally they want to include sports, but it doesn't have to include sports. Just one of those characters who all of a sudden it was movies, television, maybe a hit single or two, things like that. Okay, so they use Bo Jackson as an example. In the late 80s, early 90s, he's playing in the NFL. He's playing Major League Baseball. He has his wildly popular Bo Knows Nike shoe campaign, widely viewed as the greatest two-sport athlete ever.
And also during that run, he became the greatest video game athlete of all time, too, with Tecmo Bowl.
Oh, right.
He's unstoppable in that game. You cannot tackle the man.
He's still known for that.
Yes, he is.
Or at least the game is still known for that. Prince is in here, 1984. He dumps the Purple Rain record on us and the Purple Rain movie. Dominated the Billboard charts with all the songs from that record. Let's Go Crazy, When Doves Cry, the title track, Delirious. No, that was 1999. Anyway, Prince. Will Smith, 96, 97.
Yeah, he'd be one of my answers.
He's in the movie Independence Day, which was terrible. He's in the movie Men in Black, which I don't remember.
I love that movie.
He had the television show going, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He had rap records going with his pal Jazzy Jeff. I remember.
I always forget about him rapping.
I remember when they were.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I suppose you're too young.
Yeah.
That was my first experience to him as a rapper.
No, mine was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, well, he was a rapper first, and you were probably too young.
You caught the reruns of Fresh Prince.
Jim Carrey in 1994, he does Ace Ventura, he does The Mask, he does Dumb and Dumber. he quickly becomes the highest paid actor in Hollywood. And then they also, at least this article from social media includes Nicolas Cage in 95 through 97. He went on a 4-movie stretch, leaving Las Vegas. Hilarious. The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off. But that's
Love
fun.
those movies.
That's a good run right there.
It's kind of fun to look back and my damn, some of these folks were just raking in the bucks.
Well, Kevin Hart certainly comes to mind, where you couldn't turn on a TV without watching him doing whatever it was. He's at a basketball game. He's hosting an award show. He's in every movie, every television show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you watch a movie of his on TV, it cuts a commercial, and 3 of the 5 commercials have Kevin Hart in them.
Yeah, he's got his own product line.
Kevin Hart's
Adam
got it.
Sandler. I know you hate Adam Sandler, but that guy was involved in pretty much everything.
Yep.
You know, especially for me, it's especially significant when you're featured in all different types of, I hate to sound like a dork here, but art, right? The arts, television, movies, music, advertising. What am I missing?
Well, how about somebody, did you say sports yet?
Sure.
Okay. What about Travis Kelce?
Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Well, he's all over.
Travis Kelce's an actor now.
Oh, he did some
Yeah, he
television.
probably
Yeah, I
counts.
forgot.
Yeah.
He did some television.
He was in a movie.
He's dating, what's her
dating
name?
Taylor
yeah.
Swift.
Oh,
I was going to mention him, but I wanted to save Nick the.
No, I mean,
Does he
heart
play
problems.
football? He plays football. Okay.
if it was football season right now, I would have lashed out at both of you for saying his name.
Okay.
But I can't do that because I've been disconnected from him now. Thank you to the Philadelphia Eagles again for winning that Super Bowl. That's a very good example.
Oh, here's another good one from I'll Always Walk with Elias Jesus, The Rock.
Sure,
Television, movies,
absolutely,
sports,
and maybe
sports owners, advertising.
Yeah, The Rock. Every effing place at once. If you want to stick with sports and stick with wrestling, early 80s Hulk Hogan. Mm-hmm. He's the biggest wrestler in the world. He's in the Rocky III movie. WWF has cartoons. Toys.
Cover of Sports Illustrated.
Didn't I say that?
I don't know.
Oh, I didn't hear if you did.
Really?
Was
Yeah,
did he
you're
have
right,
a cereal?
though. The cover of Sports.
Did he have a cereal or vitamins? He must have had vitamins.
I don't remember, but you're right. And then again, I mean, if you want to really broaden things, well, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's not broadening anything, but you have to mention folks like friggin' Elvis. You know, when Elvis hit it big in the 50s, every single he released was a hit, and then the guy had a new movie he had a new movie every month.
He pumped those things out, didn't he?
All the way into the 60s, television specials. I mean, the Beatles, of course, hit singles, movies, cartoons, Kiss.
Oh, man, yeah.
Kiss was in the 1970s. Everywhere you turned, there was Kiss. Toys, pinball machines, movies, records, cartoon. If I didn't already say the Spice Girls, Britney Spears. I went and saw Britney Spears' movie Crossroads. I saw it the weekend that it opened.
Of course you did.
Did
Yeah.
you say Shaq yet?
No,
That's another good one.
sure, yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, movies, CDs.
cartoons.
He had his hit singles. Shaq. He was.
He's been in a couple commercials.
He was in the Fushnikins.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that was a rap group that he was a part of, and he was playing in the NBA actually, and he was a member of the Fushnikins.
That's a lot going on.
He had his own Super Nintendo game, too. Shaq Fu.
He had a video game.
Yeah, on Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo called Shaq Fu. He was like a karate fighter and beat people up.
Short but Fat Jesus, New Kids on the Block, great example. I don't think they ever had a movie, but they had their own cartoon once they hit it big with their songs. They had their own friggin' cartoon. I think they had a clothing line.
No, not as successful as some of these others, but Nate Burleson, I'd say, has a pretty good run going on now.
Nate Burleson.
Yeah, he's hosting, is it the CBS morning show? He hosts game shows, the Nickelodeon alternate football broadcasts.
He's a very busy guy.
And he's on one of the NFL talk shows.
Oh, that guy. I like him.
Oh, man, he can be very funny, that's for sure. Played for the Vikings.
My God. Played for the Vikings.
Michael Strahan?
Yeah, he's
hosting Good,
he's
Good Morning
hosts
America
a couple of shows. I don't know. I guess I'm more drawn to the folks who, not only had hit singles, but a hit movie, a hit.
We're moving down the list here. Yeah,
we're all over the place. We're all over the place.
Snoop Dogg. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
he's on that right now.
I don't know who texted this in. I don't have a name, but Snoop Dogg, yeah.
A lot of folks are joking.
He is everywhere.
O.J. Simpson. I suppose that's true. At first I thought folks were joking when they were texting in O.J. Simpson, but it's true. In the late 70s, he was Bo Jackson. In the late 70s, he was at the end of his career, but he was considered the greatest running back of all time, doing television commercials and acting poorly in movies. I'll never forget The Towering Inferno, one of my favorite movies from late 70s, maybe I want to say 77, 78. Maybe someone can look that up. If you haven't seen The Towering Inferno, you're not a real American.
I'm not a real American.
You will not fight for the right of any man. You're not a... And I say that because two of the greatest American actors of all time act side by side in The Towering Inferno, and that's Paul Newman and what's-his-nuts, Steve McQueen. But also, O.J. Simpson has a small role in that movie. And as a 7-8-year-old kid, when I saw that movie for the very first time, and O.J. Simpson is he's in the building, The Towering Inferno, I remember being very worried that O.J. might be hurt. Isn't that something? Because I thought I was like every other 8-year-old kid in America. I thought O.J. Simpson was a pimp.
Yeah.
Was like an untouchable god.
You picked him up. You dropped him, Jesus said. We're forgetting one really big star, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, he's a big star, but would that fall into this category?
No.
Because it's movies, obviously weightlifting.
Yeah.
Well, he was a politician.
Yeah.
Okay,
he was in politics.
I suppose if you look at the big picture.
Yeah, I didn't consider that. Does he do commercials? If he does, I don't remember a commercial.
Oh, he definitely has.
What we were originally discussing was someone who had like a hot 2 or 3 years where they were everywhere.
Yeah, he's kind of been that way for a long time.
Yeah.
He's just kind of got the longevity.
But I hear what you're saying now. I guess I kind of forgot some of that stuff.
If you include all of his career in politics, movies, and wouldn't that be something if he had a hit single? But we were originally talking about people who just were scorching hot for a 2-3 year window. But yeah, we've branched out now, and there's certainly plenty of famous folks who, over the course of 30, 40 years, have done a little bit of everything.
Nick Cannon. For a while, you couldn't turn your TV off with seeing Nick Cannon.
See, I never saw him on television, but I don't watch the type of programs he would. Wasn't he involved in like the? Don't tell me the amateur singer contests and whatnot?
Yeah, that was one of the things.
Yeah,
he had his own show. He hosted a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a hell of a deal.
Chris Lindahl, sure, that's a great example. Now, here's the thing. For the person that texts that in, it's Chris with a K. You use the C.
Did they spell it with a C?
Yeah, it's Chris with a K.
Oh, that's great.
Did we say Cena? We're getting a lot of Cena texts.
No.
I guess I thought it. Maybe I just
He would probably apply. Boy, am I burned out on that peckerhead, and I have been for a long, long time.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
I'm looking forward to Peacemaker coming back.
Yeah, I still can't get enough of Cena.
Yeah, thank you for the text. Great suggestions coming in.
What else is going on today? Nobody knows?
Oh, sorry. I'll read through some more texts. It seemed rhetorical. We've got more Booze Cruise tickets to give away at some point.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, that's absolutely.
And we'll do it again on the podcast if you don't happen to hear it this morning.
That's very, very important. Our next Booze Cruise coming up June 27th out there on the St. Croix, our Independence Day Booze Cruise. Not only tickets to be given away on air, but to our podcast people. Corey Haim and Corey Feldman have been thrown into the conversation.
That's a good one.
Of a couple of famous folks who were everywhere all the time. I mean, they were in movies together, but that's kind of where it ended. You see what
That's all I remember from, yeah.
I mean, we're not trying to be...
the conversation is kind of taking over everything.
Yeah. We're not trying to be nitpicky here. We're not trying to take anything away from Corey Haim or Corey Feldman.
I loved the Corey.
So the last thing we want to do in this program is disrespect the Corys.
I did love the Corey.
I did too.
Corey Haim is dead. Did you really
Yep.
like you really did like the Coreys, or you're just joking
Oh,
around?
no, I did. I loved their movies. When I was a kid, I thought they were great.
License to Drive.
Yeah, even that. I bet if I watched it now, I would wonder, if my parents raised me wrong, but I sure did love that when I was a kid.
It's so cheesy and so wonderful.
The Lost Boys.
Loved it.
Ah,
That movie, that freaked me out.
did you get freaked out by the Lost
yeah.
Boys? Even though the vampires looked like a glam rock band?
Scared me. I could barely watch 24, and I loved the show 24. Jack Bauer scared the hell out of me because he was a vampire back in the day.
Speaking of being nitpicky, Kiefer Sutherland, the lead vampire out of the glam rock vampires in the Lost Boys. He couldn't have made some effort with his hair before they started shooting that movie?
I guess I'm trying to think.
He couldn't have made just a small effort. His hair was beautiful in the Young Guns documentaries. And then he signs up to do Lost Boys, where he's going to be portraying a glam rock vampire, and he does nothing with his hair. Very disappointing.
Well, he kind of had like a Billy Idol thing he was trying to do, it appeared.
Oh.
And he had an earring. Oh, how scandalous that was in
Whoa.
1987.
Did he have a pierced ear?
If I remember
And
right.
he's a man?
He's a man.
That says bad boy controversy up and down.
Heck yeah, it does.
Right. We got to get going. You're a wonderful crowd. And when we return, we'll hit up the stupid news report here on the 93X Half-Ass Morning Show.
The 93X Half-Assed Morning Show.
Hey, podcast pals. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Take it from me as a newly married guy with a very opinionated dog. Comfort is kind of important right now. That's why I'm a Smart Club member of Standard Heating. I get to schedule service when it actually works for me, pay how I want, and choose what fits our home best. Pick the HVAC company that treats you like family, not just another name on the list. That's Standard. Check out standardheating.com and tell them Dana sent you.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
Inside the opening 45 seconds. What a goal! Jack McGlynn with that cannon of a left foot.
Never miss a game.
What a start for the United States.
Shot for distance. What a goal!
Never miss a moment.
Exquisite from the San Diegan. Can he finish? Yes, he can! Yeah!
The U.S. Soccer Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Stupid news on the Half-Assed Morning Show.
We had a conversation going a few minutes ago. We were rapping about big shot famous folks who at one point or another had an incredible run of success where for a year or two they were everywhere. They had hit singles, a big movie, something or another on television. Then you got to include advertisements. These folks all had at least two or three of those covered. We mentioned quite a few: Britney Spears, Kiss, Elvis, the Beatles, and on from there. The Spice Girls. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we mentioned the Spice Girls. Here's a few more solid examples from our handsome listening audience. Justin Timberlake.
That's a great one.
Yeah, he had the NSYNC thing going. They had cartoons for kids.
Movies, SNL.
He went ahead and did the movies and the Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live is the first time I realized this guy's pretty awesome. The D in the box thing, that's when I started to become a fan.
He's annoyingly funny. It's like, come on, let us have one thing. You're good looking, you can sing, you can dance, you're funny. Like, stop it. Stop being so good at everything.
That video was so good.
So good.
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
Is a good example. He had the hit singles. He had his own movie. He had a cartoon for the kids.
Pam Anderson, Baywatch, got into movies, was everywhere in modeling. There was a home video that was released.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so back to Vanilla Ice. Also, he has like a home remodeling show. He races motorcycles.
Jet skis, too.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Here's a listener who wants to know, do the monkeys count? Absolutely the monkeys count. Hit singles, television shows. A lot of merch. Monkeys lunch boxes and folders for your schoolwork.
Here's another one, a guy that just rocketed to fame and then kind of disappeared, Dane Cook. He was everywhere for a while, selling out stadiums as a comedian, movies, everything.
Eddie Murphy.
Sure.
Bill Cosby. Selling records with his comedy. HBO specials. A sitcom. The cartoon for the kids. The Cosby Kids. I watched the hell out of that. Back in the 80s, Pac-Man.
Yeah.
A hit single.
I saw somebody text that in, and I thought, that's a pretty good one. I wouldn't have considered, like an actual non-person to fall into that category.
Yeah.
But Pac-Man's perfect. That's a
Serial
great answer.
cartoon.
Yeah.
Pac-Man Fever was a big single. Pee Wee Herman. Absolutely. Great answer. Don Johnson. For a short window of time in the mid-'80s, he had the Miami Vice, dramatic television show. He had a singing career. I mean, I suppose he
did a bit of everything.
He didn't quite translate over to the kids. He didn't have a cartoon show. He didn't have a big movie. He did. He had movies in the 80s. I don't think any of them were wildly successful. And then a great final one a great example that I have here in front of me of famous folks who had an incredible brief run of success where they seemed to cover every angle. This is a listener by the name of Brad from Buffalo who mentions the only group to ever accomplish this. They had the number one late night television show, the number one song, and the number one album all in the same month. Can you think of who that might be? They were on the number one late night television show. They had the number one movie, and they had a number one single, all in 1 month. I'll give you the year, 1980.
Boy, I don't know.
Got nothing.
Bow, bow, bow.
The
Blues Brothers. Hell yeah, John Belushi. Can we hear a little bit of Rubber Biscuit?
Sure. To Bomb Jesus said when we were running down all the attributes of Bill Cosby, we forgot he was also a bartender. All right.
Oh, stop it.
Let's find that Blues Brothers.
Another one while Josh finds the Blues Brothers is Tom Green in the 90s. Had the big TV show, married Drew Barrymore, had a bunch of movies going on. He was pretty huge there for a couple 2-3 years.
Tom friggin' Green.
Mm-hmm. And if you have time, speaking of him, watch that documentary about him on Amazon Plus, I believe, or Amazon Prime. Very fascinating.
I'll have to give that a shot sometime. All right. We might as well get rolling here with the stupid news. And we're going to start with a real squirrely sumbitch here. This guy's even troubling to look at. If you see his mugshot, and Ashley can let us know here in a minute if we have that up on our website, you can see it in his eyes that things aren't quite wired right in this guy's noggin. And his behavior reflects that as well. No surprise the dude is from down there in the Alligator State. Christopher Minin is the name of this warped individual. He's 41 years old. He's had a hell of a gimmick going over the last few months. And let me see if I can get this straight. Christopher goes ahead and walks into folks' backyards and whatnot in the middle of the night when nobody's looking. He walks onto folks' properties, especially if they have a pool. That's his thing. He snatches up their pool floaties, not the pool noodles, I'm talking about the inflatable pool floaties, the all different the shapes, different style.
The beds and stuff.
He grabs them up. He runs like hell until he gets back to his place, and then Christopher F's those inflated pool floaties hard.
Yuck.
He bangs them until they pop right there in his hands. That's how he gets off. Don't you know?
I believe there was a guy maybe in Duluth that had something similar. Maybe it was pool noodles a while back.
I thought I remember talking about a guy that did something like this.
Yeah.
They do have that open hole right there in the noodle.
You got one on the other end, too, for your friend.
Oh, I can get all the way through. I apologize to the city of Duluth if that's not where it was, but my memory says it was a guy up in Duluth that was humping pool noodles.
Sounds more like Maple Lake to me. He's finally been caught, this guy, who snatches up everyone's pool floaties, runs away in the dead of night, and then he has unprotected sex with these floaties. He's been caught by the local cops. He's been terrorizing pool owners in the neighborhood for months. And he admitted, I'll F a pool floaty. Upside down, he said.
At least he's honest.
This guy's been cooked for years. He's been in and out of trouble and obviously in and out of pool floaties now for quite some time. It says here authorities are going to try some house arrest and probation to see if they can slow this whack bag down a little bit.
He looks so dirty.
Oh, he's filthy.
Why are you so dirty, dude?
He doesn't.
This guy who bangs pool floaties, Ashley. What do you expect?
He doesn't bother to wash.
That mugshot is up, by the way.
Oh,
on
appreciate that.
93x.com.
93x.com.
Yep.
The Duluth guy I was thinking about, it was exercise balls. Thank you, brother and sisterhood. For some reason, I thought it was pool noodles. Maybe there's two.
He'd punch it. Huh. He'd poke a hole in the exercise ball and bounce that sumbitch.
Just rub himself on it, I guess.
I was going to say, you'd have to hurry up if you poke a hole in it.
Yeah.
He just likes to rub on it. Back to this Christopher character who humps all the pool floaties. One night, a local cop spotted Christopher riding a bicycle down the street at 1:30 in the morning while carrying a garbage bag full of pool floaties.
Just trying to get rid of the evidence?
Jeez.
Well, no, he was taking them home, I think, so he could scissors with them.
Oh, okay. I thought he had a bunch of them that were deflated and already used and was getting rid of them.
Yeah, what does he do with them after he's done with them?
I think he keeps them.
He's got a room.
He keeps them.
He has tea parties with them.
Yes.
Oh.
And here's the thing. It's all he ever steals when he sneaks onto folks' properties. Just the pool floaties. Multiple folks have reported him walking onto their property, and he's never stolen anything other than these pool floaties. The cops found 75 of them in his garage, and none of the cops had the balls to touch them with their bare hands. You want to hear the rundown on the lovers this Christopher guy has conquered?
Yeah, does he have anything good?
Oh, I think you'll enjoy some of this, Ashley. This is just a sampling of some of the sexual partners this man has taken over the last few months. He had rough sex with a lounge chair with cup holders in it, an inflatable lounge chair with cup holders in it.
Those are nice.
He has also banged a duck floaty, a lobster floaty, French fries, a slice of pizza, a turtle.
I like turtles.
A whale, a banana, an elephant, a watermelon, and a piece of bacon.
Wow, the people in his neighborhood are fun. They're a good time.
And he's also folded something called a Shaquille O'Neal branded Shaq inflatable lounger.
Oh.
That thing looked extra comfortable.
He had sex with the diesel, the inflatable diesel.
A friend of mine just got a giant box of Cheez-Its inflatable for her pool, and now it's kind of giving me some ideas because I do love Cheez-Its.
That's pretty funny. I got to Google that.
Yeah, it's just it's in a big inflatable box of Cheez-Its you can just lay in your pool with.
Cute.
Now, I hate to end this story on a...
I'm looking at it.
That's hilarious.
I hate to end this story on a really dark note. I mean, this whole thing is, of course, disturbing. But it says here, Christopher told the cops when they asked him, what in God's name is wrong with you? He said he pumps away on the pool floats instead of raping women.
Oh.
I mean, I guess that's good.
That's interesting.
Add him to the list, Cubby. Did you add him to the list?
Yeah, he's on the list.
All right.
You just made the list. If he was in here, that's what I'd tell him.
It's either pool noodles or real life breathing women.
That's what he said.
Yeah, that's either or. Yep.
Can you imagine if they used that as a advertising slogan on your favorite pool toy?
Or if you
Caution, choking hazard. But hey, the positive is it'll keep you from raping women.
Or if his lawyer used that as a defense in the court of law. Well, on the other hand, that could have been.
Yeah, he could be doing something much worse. What?
That actually sounds like something a lawyer would say.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck.
That's not so ridiculous in the end.
And we've mentioned we love that argument. Well, at least he's not doing this atrocious thing that everyone agrees would be worse.
Right.
Yeah.
People love that spin. People love that spin.
And they got you on that one.
Well, it's not like I'm out there stabbing people to death and masturbating on their corpses. It is not like that. But
we all agree that is worse.
Right.
Double D Jesus wants to know, why did he have to steal them? Just go to the dollar store and grab a bunch to bang. Maybe that was part of it for him.
He doesn't have $1.
Yeah, it's part of the thrill.
Yeah.
Like, somebody laid on this thing.
Sure.
Maybe that's
He got some nice ones, too. Those ones are bougie. Like, those aren't just $1.
I also think this guy doesn't have a pot to piss in. Even if he goes to the dollar store, he's... this guy's a stupid idiot. For God's sake, how long have we been doing this Zoom meeting thing now? For a few years? I mean, it
kind of started during the pandemic, so about 5 years.
Well, it's been going on way before that.
But that's when it became popular.
It became
well-known.
huge during the pandemic.
I had no idea what a Zoom was until that happened.
A man in the ridiculous United Kingdom, he got himself fired after he did a virtual work call, a Zoom meeting. He got fired after he sat down for a Zoom meeting, and he wasn't wearing any effing pants, and he wasn't wearing any underwears. His D was just swinging. It says here, he didn't just forget that he wasn't wearing pants or underwears. He didn't just make a mistake by thinking he had his camera off. He needed to adjust a computer cord during this meeting, so he leaned forward and partially folded his laptop forward or this or that. And his laptop camera pointed down, and it revealed his disgusting penis and testicles, and everyone saw it. So the story, at least, is pretty convinced this guy did it on purpose.
Weirdo.
Initially, he admitted he had made a mistake, but then when he realized how much trouble he was in, he tried to claim he was wearing nude-colored underwear. All right. No, you weren't. And then he bitched about how the Zoom meeting happened on his day off. So he blamed everyone else. If we hadn't had this meeting on my day off, you wouldn't have seen my D.
So I can't be naked on my day off? Is that what you're telling me?
This guy's just a clown.
Those were kind of fun. Some of those videos where people don't realize that their camera was on or something in the background is quite embarrassing. Because, like you said, Dana, it was new to a lot of people, certainly.
Yeah, I never heard of it or been on one.
They're kind of miserable just in general, but certainly if there's a lot of people and then people don't know how to use it.
I hate them. I hate them so much.
Not knowing how to mute themselves.
That's what half the meeting is people trying to figure out how to get their mic on or, that type of thing.
Or talking without realizing their mic isn't on.
Or oh, my goofy background. It's the background of the Simpsons house. It's like I'm sitting on their couch.
Uh-oh. I did that once.
That's cute.
Why are you coming off all cute?
Yeah,
That's the only part I like.
That seems like something you'd love.
It's just then that delays the meeting because everybody's commenting on each other's backgrounds.
Boy, I don't know. Our boss did that, too. I'm going to tell him he said that.
Josh, didn't you do something once in a Zoom meeting where it looked like you were in outer space or something like that?
I don't remember. I've used a lot of those backgrounds just because I didn't want people to see what was going on behind me. Just filth.
Is it gross? So this
meaning just not a well-maintained home. Not anything disgusting.
No, it's not. We were at your house recently.
So
and it's pretty bad. So this guy, I mean, whatever. This guy, he either meant to expose himself or he's just the dumbest sumbitch in town and pointed his. I don't care. His company didn't buy his excuse of that it was an accident and that he was wearing nude-colored underwear. So they fired him. He tried to sue them, but the case got thrown out.
I mean, that's very 2025 or even previous years where you deserve more than anything to get fired, and maybe you're not even fired. Maybe just it's all done. You have a contract. It wraps up, and then you decide to sue anyways. Why not? Why not sue?
Right. Why not sue him? Everybody does it, even if you're completely in the wrong. Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina. That's a noisy little thing, isn't it?
We hear a lot about it. She likes to talk about it.
Every few months, we hear something new from Gwyneth Paltrow's vaginas. So, some background here in case you're just coming out of a coma. Most of you remember that Gwyneth Paltrow started, a number of years ago, she started selling a candle that smelled like her vag. It was a big story years ago. It was her idea, I guess, to sell a candle that smelled identical to her front butt. There's no limit to the insanity in Hollywood.
Does anyone here have... Yeah, there's kind of some that surrounds her. It seems she's a little goofy.
Wow.
Does anybody have any interest in experiencing one of those candles?
No.
No.
Yeah, I don't really either.
No.
Not even a little bit.
I bet it's very pretentious.
The smell?
Yes. More than anything,
Yeah.
It's pretentious.
So, anyway, the Gwen Paltrow candle was called This Smells Like My Vagina. Word is that candle is no longer for sale anywheres, unless you want to spend $700 on what they call here the secondary market. Hell, I wouldn't give her $700 for her actual vagina. And that's no offense to Gwyneth. I'm not paying that kind of money for anyone's vagina. What the hell am I going to do with a vagina?
I can't think of one thing.
You got any ideas?
No.
So anyways, word is now there's an Australian punk rock band that I'm sure I'd hate called Private Function, and they want to make the Gwyneth Paltrow vagina gimmick the focus of their new record. Sales must be down for these fellers. They released a scratch and sniff vinyl LP that actually smells like that Paltrow beaver candle. Right, that's kind of the reaction I think the music industry had to the...
Congratulations to everyone lucky enough to score a goopy record. You now own a scratch and sniff record that smells like Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina.
Josh? Mm-hmm. They kind of missed the train on this one a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah, did they just hear about this vagina deal?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Okay.
Was there, did it all of a sudden... Were people talking about it again?
Private Function, again, is the name of this act. And they have released a scratch and sniff record that smells like the Gwyneth Paltrow vagina candle. It says here they actually reached out to an expert in perfumes to recreate the scent perfectly. This group must be insane. They want $100 in trade for their effing punk record that smells like a bit that was trendy 5 to 10 years ago?
People fell for the bit.
Yeah, what's their follow-up going to be? Something involving Charlie Sheen and Tiger Blood?
Right.
They sold out.
Well, I'm not buying that. That's what they always say about these bizarre products.
Yeah.
They always say that to get us interested. Well, you could get it's sold out, sorry. No, it isn't.
It's like when a fast food company releases something, like it's a KFC log that smells like fried chicken, and they say, well, it's sold out?
All the bizarre products. So what, did they make 5 of these records, and then, their family members bought them, and then they can go online and say, well, we're sold out. That's my guess. So there you go.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, the timing's odd.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, growing up as a kid, I thought those scratch and sniff stickers were something else.
So cool, dude.
I would sniff the heck out of that pizza one as much as I could. What an amazing technology, I thought.
I remember those from grade school. Some kids had them all over their folders and their books.
Oh, yeah, you get like a decent grade and your teacher hands you a couple of those. God, those were cool.
Or the markers that smelled like fruit. You know, you'd uncap them. It's basically teaching you how to huff. You'd uncap the marker and go, and because it would smell like strawberries.
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably we developed some bad habits from that.
We probably did.
That is kind of crazy now that I think about it.
I found, Josh, I was going through some boxes of useless garbage at my home, and I found some of my grade school folders, and one or two of them had a scratch and sniff sticker on it, and I did give it a rip.
How was it?
And it's too late now. It's
all scented out.
It's been 45 years.
Probably like biting into a stick of gum from a 1985 pack of Dunross, baseball cards.
No, you'd break your tooth on that.
But I remember I had some root beer on there, a skunk. There was one that...
Oh, yeah, I remember. They released some stinky ones.
Yeah. There's one you could scratch and it would...
Physics teacher Jesus said they still use scratch and sniff stickers at their school for seniors when they do good on the test, and the kids still love them, even as seniors in high school.
I don't know. We're all just closet huffers. All right. I'm going to try my best with this one. It's something they got cooking in China, and sometimes it's very difficult for me to understand how they operate in those faraway places. The gist of the deal here, I believe, is this. Over there in China, if you're out of work and you don't want your friends and family always up your ass asking you about how the job search is going and that kind of jibber-jabber, there are companies in China that allow you to get all dressed up and then you pretend to work for them. So folks won't be on your ass about getting a job.
A buddy of mine, a member of his family was laid off. This is probably 2018. But he didn't want to tell his family, so he would go sleep in his car. He'd get dressed for work, briefcase, everything. And he'd go sleep in his car at a Home Depot or go watch movies all day instead of telling his family. He just didn't want to say. He wasn't even really looking for a job. And the wife found out when somebody knocked on the door and said, hey, today's the day you got to get kicked out. You're being evicted because they didn't pay their mortgage forever. So, this guy...
Oh, he went with it.
Yeah, he was terrified of his wife, obviously.
Not only did he lose his job and pretend to go to work, but he also stopped paying the bills?
Well, wasn't making... I guess he was making enough money to go to movies, but that was about it. My friend was telling me it was about a year that he did this.
A year?
Did you know his wife as well?
I didn't know this guy.
This was
it was a family member of my friend's.
Okay, I was going to ask you, was his wife that friggin' scary?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But, he kind of said it was really more about the guy than anything else. But
sounds like a troubled dude.
Can you imagine all of a sudden you get a knock on the door from the sheriff or whoever it is that says you got to go and you're clueless? You had no idea? Well, no, he's at work right now. But my God, is he really up on all the movies? But he's at work right now.
Sees all the latest movies. I had a friend who didn't lose his job. He was the boss at his job. But there were days that he just didn't want to go. He could just let his second-in-command guy know, hey, you're in charge today. And he had the luxury of just not showing up. He didn't want his wife to know, though. And this was a filthy manual labor job. So there were some days where she would leave the house first to go to her work, and he would instead just go to a bar and drink all day. But then the task for him was to get home, certainly before her, put on his work clothes, and get them dirty. Sometimes he would just swing by his warehouse and kind of roll around, just get dirt. So he could walk in and be like, oh man, what a day at work. And all he's done is sat at the bar eating mozzarella sticks, drinking beer, and watching Sports Center.
I keep checking my phone, hope my friend will text me with more info on this guy.
Yeah, I wonder what he's doing now.
Well, he ended up getting a job.
He did? Okay.
They moved. I'm afraid to give too many details out because they'll know who I'm talking about. But they ended up moving in with other family, right?
Okay.
And then eventually he did get some sort of job. I think he actually worked for the family doing something.
But this friend of mine who had his fake work days where instead he'd just go to the bar all day, there was one day where his little routine caused him to forget for hours. Caused him to forget about his infant child.
Where?
In what way?
Where was the infant child?
At the house.
Oh.
And his wife said something like, don't forget when you're on lunch break to come home because the baby will, and I got to go here, so you got to be home to take care of the baby when you're on lunch break. Well, he never went on lunch break because he wasn't at work. He was at the bar.
Yeah.
And he's on like his 11th beer, and he just spit it across the bar and realized that his infant baby had been left at the house for 5-6 hours while he's watching a rerun of a classic NFL game or something. He said when he got home, that baby was hungry.
I bet.
Oh, my gosh.
Anybody ever find out? I mean, the baby's not going to say a word.
Yeah, no, you're good there.
As far as I know, he and I are the only ones who know that story. So anyway, in China, if you're out of a job and you don't want your friends and family asking you about it, there are companies that allow you to get all dressed up and then you pretend to work for them. Folks there in China can pay a company to give them a fake job with a fake office, and the company will even assign you fake tasks so you can bring some fake work home with you. And your friends will say, what are you doing? And you might say, oh, I've got some work to do here. I got a little behind at the office. You don't get paid at all. You pay the company to make it look like you're working for a living. For a daily fee of only around $5, these companies will give you a desk. They'll give you Wi-Fi, coffee, lunch, and an atmosphere that mimics a work environment. There are no bosses. It's very confusing.
Or you could just work.
But they can't find a job.
But, yeah, I hear what you're saying, though, Ashley. Maybe if you're there, look for a job instead of doing fake tasks and things like that.
Well,
you've got Wi-Fi.
I guess I had an innocent line of thinking on this. I was picturing people who are trying to find a job and it's just not working out for them. So instead they take the fake job. You guys are...
Well, they're paying $5 to get fake tasks and fake fights with their bosses. I mean, they're filling their day with some of these other things that appear like work.
Right. They get Wi-Fi and lunch. That's a good deal.
You guys, I'm sure, are right. There's probably some people who just, I don't know, want to pretend. But I was picturing these are, kind of out of, down on their luck people who are trying to find a job and just haven't been successful. But I'm sure there's all types who are signing up for this. The more money you hand these companies, the more details they can add to your fake job. They mention maybe you can get a fake coworker. You can, I think, in this setup. You can get a fake coworker to call you at home when you know you're going to have real friends and family over, so you can have a fake argument with a fake coworker over the telephone. And then your friends say, damn, Lee is really standing his ground on those TPS reports. Pretend to work companies. They're very popular in China.
Terrazzo Jesus said, are those tasks really fake or actual work for a company that people are paying to, quote, work for that they should be being paid for? What a genius scam that would be.
I don't even know what he said.
Can you imagine that? Like, let's say my job is to attach the end of a rake to a rake pole, right? That's my whole job. And I tell somebody else, hey, I understand you want to fake work. Just put the end of the rake on this pole, and you just charge me I'll pay me $5 a day, and I'll let you do this all day.
Someone's doing your job for you.
Right.
Hell, I don't know.
That's a genius idea.
Very confusing stuff, and a long ways to go, I guess, to put on some kind of a charade for your friends and family. We got to take a break. We'll check the sports next.
In the 60s, I made love to many, many women, often outdoors, in the mud and the rain. And it's possible a man slipped in. Would be no way of knowing.
The 93X Half-Assed Morning Show. 93X. Sports. On the 93X Half-Assed Morning Show.
First thing the players see when they walk in the building every day is the Jim Marshall Vikings captain's legacy wall. I think it's really important, huge part of our history, and a great way to honor the greatest captain in the history of our organization and one of the best defensive players to ever do it.
He was a special player. As a coach, you can't say who was the best, but there is a category you do have, and that is special. Jim Marshall was special.
That's the words of Kelvin O'Conrad there and the late Bud Grant on the passing of Jim Marshall. Jim Marshall, one of the greatest Vikings ever, is gone. As of yesterday, he passed away at 87 years old. When Randy Shaver and Brad Ryder jump into the mix here in a half hour, we'll have plenty more to say about Jim Marshall. He was a friend of Randy's and someone that Randy advocated quite heavily for over the last number of years to get that man into the Football Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, it never happened while Jim was alive, but we've got plenty to say on Jim Marshall starting at 7:30 this morning when the boys jump in. The greatest leader the Vikings ever had, by far the greatest leader. He was the captain of that football team for 14 consecutive seasons.
Man.
He was the Iron Man. NFL's ultimate Iron Man, playing, 300-some games in a row if you include playoffs. And like a lot of guys my age, the late 70s Minnesota Vikings was my first favorite team. I was obsessed with those late 70s Vikings teams. It was the beginning of my love affair with sports, like a lot of guys and gals my age and older. So we're very sad to report that Jim Marshall is gone. And listen in. Don't go anywhere, of course, but especially at 7:30 when Randy and Brad jump in, we'll be talking about Jim. By damn. Fran Tarkenton and Chuck Foreman and Ahmad Rashad and Sammy White and all the Purple People Eaters and Bobby Bryant, who we talked to last year, didn't we, Josh?
We did, yeah.
And Paul Krause and guys like Mick Tingle. That was the first group, the first team when I was a little kid where I could not get enough information. Not only did I sit directly in front of the television, to watch their every move, but my mother tells stories where when the game would go to commercial, I would run out into the backyard by myself and mimic the play that I had just seen them run on television. I would be in the court and I'd pretend to hand, and I'd be there running, and then I'd run around to the yard, and then I'd fall into the. I was just. And
that is absolutely adorable.
I would
Nick.
go to the library and read about that. I was just absolutely obsessed. So anytime one of these characters from the Purple People Eaters era dies, it's a tough thing. Twins put another whooping on the Athletics last night. Tonight on TNT, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Like I said, Randy Shaver and Brad Ryder coming up in a half hour. Don't go anywhere. Josh's news report's coming up next.
93X
Half-Assed Morning Show.
Hey, podcast pals. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Take it from me as a newly married guy with a very opinionated dog, comfort is kind of important right now. That's why I'm a Smart Club member of Standard Heating. I get to schedule service when it actually works for me, pay how I want, and choose what fits our home best. Pick the HVAC company that treats you like family, not just another name on the list. That's Standard. Check out standardheating.com and tell them Dana sent you.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Bravo TV star Lala Kent holds nothing back.
I think the boundaries are getting a little unboundaried, but that's fine.
From relationships,
it's grabbing coffee with your friends. That is
right up my alley.
Right?
To business and beyond.
Where there's history, true friendships, but it's fine. I've also been a rat.
I'm obsessed with her. I hate her. Literally the exact same feeling.
If you really want to party,
you have to have the perfect combination.
Give them Lala. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
93X Half-Assed Morning Show.
I wouldn't have sex with you if I was starving and your wiener was a ham sandwich.
93X rocks.
For her to make up that story, tie up numerous officers for a while as we try to figure out what happened, just because, she got arrested for shoplifting, that's a serious waste of our time.
A 24-year-old Connecticut woman caught shoplifting from a Walmart thought the best way out of trouble was to come up with a little white guy lie. So she conjured up an elaborate false kidnapping story. Last Monday at 12:13 p.m., police responded to what sounded like a serious situation. A woman claiming she and her 7-year-old daughter had been kidnapped. 24-year-old Sean Lee Lone Eagle was caught shoplifting by store employees, but instead of owning up to the 5-finger discount, she fingered a fictional fellow, a mystery white man who she claimed kidnapped her and her 7-year-old daughter while they were on a walk and forced her to shoplift on his behalf.
Come on.
Not realizing
That's normal.
How much more trouble she just got herself in.
Oh.
She gave a detailed description of this man, claiming he was holding her daughter in a sedan outside, and if she didn't take the items, he threatened to drive off with the child.
I'll just be out of here, he said.
Officers responded and began searching the area, hunting the kidnapper, while other officers reviewed surveillance video. But after going through all the footage, they said Lone Eagle arrived alone, contradicting her claims of arriving in the kidnapper's car with her daughter. Then her story changed several times until she admitted she made up the entire incident to get out of trouble for shoplifting.
You go from shoplifting, which, is still a criminal charge, but it's not to the level of misusing the 911 system, falsely reporting an incident.
Oh, there's also an outstanding warrant for her arrest.
Of course there is.
What?
Police confirmed the child is safe, and the child was not involved in that incident.
Boy, that story sucked. The one that she came up with.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's awful.
The story reminded me of a time at St. Cloud State. We had a big party. The cops surrounded the place. They're going to bust everybody for underage drinking, but we're waiting for a search warrant from the judge. So my buddy came up with a great idea. I'll get the cops to leave by phoning in a bomb threat to the grocery store on campus. So he calls in, says, "There's a bomb in the freezer. I'm about to blow it up," and hangs up and thinks he's a genius. We're like, you just committed a federal offense to get out of a $45 underage drinking ticket? And you could see the look in his eye. He realized what he did. But thankfully, the people at the grocery store, I'm sure that wasn't the strangest call they got on a campus grocery store on a Saturday night, so they didn't call the cops about it. But the paranoia in his eyes when you realize how stupid he was.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah,
No.
That's a tough one to come back from.
Mm-hmm.
Police in Indiana arrested a 27-year-old woman last Wednesday on a laundry list of burglary charges after breaking into a home to wash her clothes. According to a police report, cops were dispatched to a house in reference to a woman who broke in. Officials say the homeowner told authorities he woke up and the suspect, later identified as 27-year-old Gabrielle Caldwell, she was standing over him with a sharp-pointed metal object.
Uh-oh.
He asked her to leave, but she refused and began getting naked.
She started getting naked?
Yeah, right there in front of him.
Business is picking up around here.
Yeah, she has no shame. Officials say the woman got nude and the homeowner was afraid, so he ran out of the door to escape the naked knife-wielding woman and waited until police arrived. When officers questioned Caldwell, they said she couldn't explain why she was there. She couldn't provide the address of where she was, only insisting she's just doing laundry. Police also noted she appeared to be under the influence of an unknown substance.
Oh, sure.
Though the situation was alarming, it ended without injuries, so Caldwell, that ends well.
What the hell?
Gabrielle Caldwell was arrested at the scene and is facing multiple burglary charges. As the old saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished, especially when a person's outstanding display of generosity is accompanied by an outstanding warrant. And that's what happened last Wednesday in Georgia. Police got a tip about an SUV tied to a felony shoplifting case. They tracked it down, pulled the driver over, and discovered he had an active felony warrant. While officers were handling that situation, a 38-year-old woman showed up, trying to do a favor and pick up the vehicle for her friend. But she had her own legal troubles. She was wanted on several battery charges and had a warrant as well. Needless to say, both ended up behind bars.
It's really stupid.
Yeah.
Well, why would you go?
I guess it never occurred to her that maybe they'd look into her as well.
Right.
In a love triangle turned dessert disaster, a 34-year-old Louisiana woman swapped sweet nothings for sugary sabotage, leaving a car looking like it lost a fight with Willy Wonka in the end. Mel Ridney Robinson is accused of dousing a vehicle with chocolate syrup, showering it with sugar, and slashing its tires in what was believed to be a feud over a shared romantic partner. Mel Ridney Robinson just turned a car into a dessert buffet and demolition site all in one go, the Shreveport Police Department wrote on Facebook, along with the words sugar, syrup, and slashing, oh my. On May 15th, Robinson pulled up in a car of her own, parked next to the victim's vehicle, destroyed it, and then drove away. Hell hath no fury like a woman with a sweet tooth and a score to settle, and she did her best to settle that score. A summary of the sticky situation revealed quite a mess.
Robinson was caught on surveillance footage allegedly slashing all 4 tires, breaking not one but both of the side mirrors, poured chocolate syrup on the exterior, shattered the windshield, and poured sugar into the gas tank.
Depending on the cost of her confection carnage, she could be looking at prison time and a big old bill. Let's be real. No man's worth prison time and a criminal record, police wrote. It's unclear whether the romantic partner police mentioned was the owner of that vandalized vehicle or if it belonged to the other person in the love triangle.
That vehicle ended up just looking like a big old broken Hershey's Kiss.
Yeah. Some sort of candy factory exploded all over it. They said it's going to be thousands of dollars to fix that thing.
Thousands of dollars.
A peaceful poop turned perilous last week when a reckless driver crashed into an occupied porta potty. Can you imagine?
That sucks.
Late Thursday night, a 32-year-old fleeing from a traffic stop drove through a downtown Denver park and hit a portable toilet where someone was pooping, giving the unsuspecting occupant the shock of a lifetime when their poop palace transitioned to a target. Miraculously, the person answering nature's call inside that porta potty at the time only had minor injuries.
Wow.
That really would suck.
Yeah, because if you're taking a poop in a porta potty, it's not a casual one. It's a you gotta go type of poop.
You're already having a bad day.
Mm-hmm. Did he get any on him?
Didn't say.
He must have gotten some.
Oh, that's so scary.
I'm sure unless it was freshly cleaned and he hadn't gone yet. Oh boy.
Oh, that's one of my biggest nightmares. That is up there.
Getting hit while in a porta potty?
No,
that's something you thought of?
No, just like getting, like, after seeing so many videos of people being, like, porta potties just pushed over.
Just tipped over, yeah. I know what you mean.
I would kill.
Yeah, I'd kill someone.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in that situation. You know, it sounds like that engine's getting very close.
Just minded your business. No.
A Veterans Hall in Missouri is experiencing an unfortunate case of deja vu. For the second time in just 3 months, a car has crashed through its roof.
Through its roof?
Yeah. In a bizarre repeat of a February incident, a vehicle slammed into the Clay Ray Veterans Memorial Hall last week, damaging the very same section of the roof that had only recently been repaired. The building sits directly below a hilltop roadway, putting its roof on the level with passing traffic, a setup that's now led to 2 major crashes.
First thing this morning, we get a call that there's a car on the roof, and we thought somebody was just joking around because what's the odds of that happening twice in 5 months?
They just got it fixed up. I don't know the exact date that they just, literally the roof is brand new.
This time the car didn't break through the roof, but the impact was still intense. The crash was so forceful, the car's engine was thrown clear and landed near the building's flagpole.
That engine comes out. I couldn't imagine how a human wouldn't come out of the car if he wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
Turns out the guy was okay. Back in February, the crash resulted in arrests after a 22-year-old man lost control of the vehicle while fleeing police. As for last week's incident, authorities are investigating. They're looking into whether the driver suffered a medical emergency or if impairment played a role.
Should change the way things are structured around here.
Just put a jump on top of it or something.
Yeah, this isn't going to work.
Oh, it sucks. They were a week away from reopening from that last crash. And a Denver family is contemplating moving. They're leaving their home of 27 years, possibly, after experiencing their 5th car crash in 16 months. 3 of those crashes directly hitting their house.
Extremely frustrating and heartbreaking, and the amount of anxiety and stress on us, just from a personal standpoint, of this happening over and over and over again.
One of the worst incidents happened in December of 2023 when a car crashed through a wall and tore through 3 floors of their home. The damage was so extensive, they had to move out for months while over $440,000 of repairs were underway. Much like the Missouri Veterans Hall, contractors were not yet finished with some of the work when yet another car hit the house on Saturday night.
Every neighborhood has that house, don't they?
Yeah, a mutual friend of ours moved for that reason. They put up huge, giant boulders in their front yard. It was on a real tight curve right next to a bar. That probably didn't help. And so they put up giant boulders, and it just didn't matter. It kept getting crashed into, and then they decided, it's just it's unsafe to live here.
So they just tore the house down?
No, they moved.
Oh, but the house is still there.
The house is there, yeah.
Eventually, sometimes, the city will just decide, look, we're not doing this anymore. Yeah, my neighborhood had that house at the bottom of a hill with a hard turn. And it was, when we were kids, it was exciting to ride through the neighborhood to see what's the latest damage to this house, because someone was always coming down that hill too fast, maybe with some beers in them, and they'd knock into the damn thing.
I grew up.
It was kind of fun. But that house still stands to this day, and they solved it, or at least you said it didn't work in your friend's case. But this one, the problem was more or less solved years ago when they finally put some massive boulders up around the property. So if a car did lose control on that hill and on that turn, it would hit the rocks and not the house.
In one case, with the boulder they put up, they realized they didn't get big enough boulders because they hit it so hard it rolled to the house.
Yeah.
So they just decided, we can't do this anymore.
I still drive by that place pretty often, and it enters my mind every time. Like, how do you live in that friggin' place?
I grew up a few blocks away from a barber shop where they ended up moving because cars kept coming through the window. It was at an intersection, a very dangerous intersection. A lot of car crashes happen, and every once in a while, somebody get T-boned right into the barber shop.
Mm-hmm.
On the last one, somebody got hurt pretty bad, and they decided we're just going to take our business elsewhere.
Somebody lose an ear or something?
I don't know how bad. I was a little kid, so I don't remember exactly how bad it was. They didn't die, thankfully.
Somebody's in there getting one of those knife shaves on the beard,
Yeah, I mean...
Whoops.
That's a jugular.
There could be injuries in the car and certainly in the barbershop, depending on what kind of procedure was happening at the time.
I'll have to ask my mom, but it was like 3 within maybe a year. It was just over and over and over again.
Again?
I'll talk to your mom.
Oh, not you, too. Making its debut today on Apple TV Plus, the new sports comedy series, Stick. A golfer headed for greatness has an on-course meltdown that derails his career and his marriage, so he hatches a plan to mentor a 17-year-old golf phenom.
Hey, you're that golfer, aren't you? Bryce Cahill. Used to call you Stick, right?
Yep, that's me.
This guy was a big pro golfer on television, everything. Shanks one into the lake and just melts down. Full psychotic break on live TV. It was insane.
I bet you can't even look at a club after a train wreck like that, right?
Stick stars Owen Wilson and comedian and podcaster Mark Maron, who announced this week he's ending his acclaimed WTF with Mark Maron podcast after nearly 16 years. Very popular podcast.
Yeah, that was a hell of a run. I used to listen to it weekly.
One of the first huge podcasts. In the latest episode of the popular show, he announced that the decision to end the podcast has come to be.
We had a great run. Basically, it's time, folks. We'll have our final episode sometime in the fall.
The show broke ground while the medium of podcasting was still in its infancy. Since its launch in 2009, they've recorded more than 1,600 episodes, and an episode he did with late comedian Robin Williams has entered into the American National Recording Registry as the first one-on-one podcast episode.
Well, there you go.
You don't listen anymore, you said?
I kind of fell off from it, but back in the day when it first started, it was must listen. When you had all those comedians on, it was groundbreaking. It really was. Nobody had ever done anything like that before.
Yeah, and when you look at the lists of most listen to podcasts, it's on the majority of those.
And he started just by interviewing his comedian friends, and after a couple of years, he was interviewing presidents and stuff like that. It was crazy how big it blew up.
Yeah, and quickly. The 93X Half-Assed Morning Show Booze Cruise is coming back for another year. We'd love to hang out with you and 3 friends Friday, June 27th on the St. Croix with Stillwater Riverboats. Absolutely free to get on, but you have to...
I was going to ask how much it would cost for me to bring 3 of my...
Well, that's why I gave you the price. It's free. It's free for you to get on, and then you can bring 3 friends.
Right.
The only way to board is to listen and win. Brought to you by Warner's Dock and Red Wing Shoes. An affinity for blouses and allegations of infidelity aren't the only things these 2 celebrities have in common. Angelina Jolie and Russell Brand, both 50 today.
Wow.
Dr. John Carter on ER, who now stars in another great medical drama called The Pit, available on Max.
Love it.
It's great. Noah Wiley is 54. School Bus and Kai Jesus contacted the Luther Bloomington Kia text line at 651-989-9393 with a shout-out to his son, Nico Jesus, graduating today with college and the workforce up next. Congratulations to Loaded Pocket Jesus, 90 days drink-free today. And happy birthday to my cousin Aiden. That's 93X News.
Randy Shaver.
Traumatized, but physically unharmed.
On the Half-Assed Morning Show.
This was the Iron Man of pro football.
I think Jim Marshall is one of the great overlooked names.
Come on, baby, let it all hang out now. It's not how good you are, it's how bad you want it. And I believe that. We want it bad.
No player in the history of the game ever played harder, longer than Jim Marshall.
I don't know if we got enough time to talk about Jim Marshall. Leadership qualities were in spades.
Jim Marshall set the tone for how this franchise goes today.
Captain Jim, everybody looked up to him.
He was the captain. He was the best captain of any team I've ever been before.
All right, Randy Shaver and Brad Ryder. Today we celebrate the life of Jim Marshall. Good morning, gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Sorry about your friend, Randy.
You know, he lived a great life. I mean, when you think about all the things that this man did in his life, and football was just a small part of it, but it was a big part for everybody who loved the Vikings and loved what they did in the 60s and 70s. It's a big loss today. There's just no question. It's really funny, Nick. I scroll through my phone and I looked for some pictures yesterday and this morning, and every time I swipe, there's a picture of the Purple People Eaters in one form or another on my phone. I've got more pictures of Carl Eller, Jim Marshall, Alan Page, and Gary Larson than I even thought I had. And the reason why is I idolized those 4 men, that team, their effort, and just the way Jim Marshall carried himself. And to be lucky enough to have a childhood idol be someone who you can call a friend, someone who you had conversations with, and more than just about football, about life and things. He really was larger than life. He really was.
A terrific guy. Jim Marshall died yesterday at 87 years old. He'd been in the hospital for a stretch.
Yep. He's been in and out of the hospital for like the last, 6-7 years. I mean, he's been battling a lot of different stuff, but
which is why we could always hear the concern in your voice over the last 5-6 years when you talked about Jim, and especially a little bit of the anger that you had about Jim Marshall never making it to the Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm not the only one that has that,
of course
that
not.
anger.
No, not by a long shot.
And I think it amplifies itself today.
Yeah.
Because now we know that if Jim ever is put into the Hall of Fame, he will not be able to enjoy it.
Right. And his family and friends will not be able to. Right.
I mean, it's such a tragedy that Jim Marshall is not in the Hall, and for whatever reasons, I don't know. I know Sid tried hard to get him in. I know Bud tried hard to get him in. I just don't understand.
None of us do. None of us do.
It doesn't make any sense when you see the guys who get in today. And I'm not saying that none of those guys deserve to get in either. But when you see the classes that go in today, every single year when I see the Hall of Fame football class, I think the same thing probably you do, Randy. I'm like, why is he not in there? Because he's more deserving than 80% of the people who are going in every single year. And again, that's not to take anything away from.
It makes no sense.
Well,
it really doesn't.
It doesn't make any sense.
If you remember, though, one of the reasons why the discussion was that Jim wasn't going to get in or whatever was that the Vikings didn't win a Super Bowl. Well, that's BS.
Well, that's
because
BS
Bud got in, Carl got in, Fran got in, Yeri got in. I mean,
most of the people
Paige
who get in today haven't won a Super Bowl either.
Exactly. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's exactly right. Well, it is a shame that the man wasn't honored in that fashion, but he
was loved here, though, boy.
He had such an impact on this general area, the state of Minnesota. He had such an impact on his teammates. He had such an impact on the players that he played against.
Yeah.
We all think of him as a Hall of Famer, even if goofy sports writers don't want to give him that nod. This is a guy who is not only the ultimate Iron Man in Vikings history, he's the ultimate Iron Man in football history. And don't give me this, Brett Favre played more games. F that. Brett Favre.
Different time, different position.
Exactly.
And most of Marshall's career, there were only 14 games in a season.
Right. I mean, 270 consecutive games at defensive end. He played 19 seasons for the Vikings. Jesus. Did not miss a game between
practice. He didn't miss a practice.
Between September 17th, 1961, the very first game in Vikings history, Jim played in that game until his final. And I remember that day very, very well. December of 1979, Jim was 41 years old when he played in his final game. And I remember watching that game on television as a young kid and seeing all of the players hug him and shake his hand, the opposite club as well. And what I also remember is he did look old on that day. He looked old.
He was ready for a nap.
He's like, man, I have done enough for this friggin'.
He actually played another year after that. He played for the Browns for another year.
He did after 79?
Yeah. Yeah, I looked this up.
I thought he started with the Browns.
Oh, he started with the Browns. My bad. He started with the Browns.
Yeah, he ended with the Vikings.
He ended with the Vikings, but he started 1 year. Yeah, he played 1 year with the Browns.
When you talk to guys like Page and Eller, those guys will tell you that. And Bud, when I interviewed Bud, this is when the Super Bowl was coming to Minnesota, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I was able to get a lot of those guys together at the Vikings Museum. And we branched off into other subjects. And one of those subjects was Jim Marshall. And even Bud at that age, and I forget how old Bud was at the time that we did the interview, he couldn't stop talking about Jim. I mean, and that relationship was one that was pretty special. Bud didn't have a lot of close relationships with players. In fact, I would say probably one, and that was Jim. Mm-hmm. It was a different time, and Bud was a different coach, right? He just wasn't. He wasn't that. He was a players coach. He was a veterans players coach.
Didn't like rookies.
Didn't like rookies, but he appreciated what Jim Marshall, and Jim had been here 7 years before Bud showed up.
Right.
So Bud knew that Jim was the leader of that group, and boy was he a great leader.
Bud Grant said he represented the Vikings better than any player.
Yeah.
He said Jim Marshall and Mick Tingelhoff were the absolute cornerstones of the Minnesota Vikings. When you read Carl Eller's statement on Jim's passing, it's beautiful. Carl Eller said, Jim Marshall is not dead.
Yeah.
He's alive in my heart and in my soul.
Yeah.
And he'll always be my friend, and I love Jim Marshall, is what Carl Eller had to say. Yeah. And what more can you say than that?
You can't. I mean, what happened yesterday is not a surprise. We all knew that his health was failing. We all knew that the time was coming, but when it finally does get here, it still hurts and it's still sad. But you got to do what Royce did this morning. You got to write about the funny stuff, the great stuff, the stuff that Jim, maybe the stuff you've never heard of about Jim Marshall.
Like what?
And Royce wrote about Mankato and his running of training camp and shooting frogs off the roof at Gage Hall. And,
wow.
Things. I mean, read Royce's article today.
I will.
Because it's not about the football side of Jim. It's about the person and just the mischief and Jim loved life. He was an adventurous person. And, he wrote about a small slice of Jim's adventurous side, which was also, a funny side. But also, as a part of that is the leadership that he showed in getting all his team together on projects and things. And, that's what leaders do. They get guys involved and they keep them close. And yeah, it's just a sad day.
Another statement that Bud Grant made years ago about Jim Marshall. I swear to God I had it in here somewhere. Oh, talking about Jim Marshall's leadership. Whatever I said, Jim was the first guy in line.
Yeah.
Bud Grant said. When I first got here, if I said take a lap, everybody looked to Jim Marshall. If Jim went, they'd all follow. They were like a bunch of goats following Jim.
Yeah, that's true. Bud has said that multiple times in times that we talked. When I interviewed, talked to him one time about the Purple People Eaters, and when I did a story at the Vikings Hall of Fame Super Bowl stories, that's a very common theme from Bud, is how the leadership, everybody looked at Jim, and if Jim did it, then they all did it because they trusted him.
You can imagine as a coach too. I mean, that's why Bud revered him so much. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know Bud and I didn't know Jim, but I've been around coaches, and if coaches have that particular person who can do that, who can bring that out in the rest of the group, boy, does that make your job as a coach a lot easier.
Yeah.
And you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation on Jim Marshall's passing, Randy, you mentioned that you idolized them, and I mentioned that earlier as well. The late 70s Minnesota Vikings were my first obsession with sports. They were why I fell in love with sports. The late 70s Minnesota Vikings when I was a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid. I was absolutely, completely obsessed with them before. I mean, of course, the Twins and the North Stars were here and Golden Gopher sports and whatnot. And I was certainly dialed into all of them. But it was the Purple People Eaters. It was Fran Tarkington and all of those guys that caused me to fall in love with sports. I absolutely looked at them as if they were gods. So it's for a lot of us, it's always tough to see someone like that go, but we celebrate how important how important they were and the effect they had on our lives.
Yeah. I mean, just the impact of, and I sit back. Yesterday, I sat there and thought about, okay, well, here we go. These guys, a lot of them are still here. And, I guess it's that we have to brace ourselves because, this probably won't be the last. And it's just that era. You just kind of feel like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah.
This era of great men who we idolized as kids. I felt that way when Santo passed away. I felt that way when Jerry West passed away. It's that was my childhood growing up.
There it
these
goes.
Men.
Yep.
And here, now another one goes, and you kind of feel like, oh my. And when you see these guys now, I mean, I see Carl now, and he kind of struggles to get around, and Bud struggled to get around at the end, and you just take a deep breath. You appreciate what those guys did, what they meant, and you have to salute them. Which is why it's really crazy. I had this, Joe Schmidt and I were talking at my golf event on Monday, and I told Joe, I spent the last 2 years at CARE putting together obit stories of all these guys.
Yeah.
I did all these interviews for all these years, and I spent 2 years putting together, I have like 30-some obits in the can at CARE of all these great athletes. Alan Page, Paul Krause, all these guys. I put them all together. I left them at CARE. I said, whenever this might happen, these are here. Because I wanted to make sure that those guys got the proper send-off that they deserved.
That was awesome of you.
And Channel 11, to their credit, ran my stories last night at 6 and 10 on Jim Marshall with all the interviews. I just interviewed Jim like 3 years ago with all these interviews. And I just felt, you know what? It's just me. I love those guys so much. And I want to make sure that they're remembered in the right way and not just throwing out stats, not just, that's too easy. Going to Google and Googling them and pretending like no, that's not what they deserve. These guys deserve more than that.
Absolutely.
They deserve our appreciation for what they did.
Well said. Well said, Randy Shaver. All right. Bye, damn. Plenty going on. Twins put down another whooping on the Athletics. Final 10 runs to 3.
Yeah, that's not the story, though.
Well, there's
Pablo, man.
There's good and bad.
Yeah.
As far as individual statistics go, Royce Lewis broke an 0 for 32 hitless streak. Damn near hit a grand slam.
Had to happen eventually.
Ended up being a 2-run double. Royce Lewis has broken his hitless streak. That's the good. The bad is Pablo Lopez was feeling a little bit funny after the game. His shoulder didn't feel so good. Yep. He's likely headed to the injured list.
Well, he's headed to the injured list. There's no doubt. He pulled himself out of the game last night after some warm-up pitches. I was reading his quotes this morning. He felt like, I could try, I could try to battle through this inning, but man, there's just something in the back of his head that said, don't do this because it could make it worse. And so he ended up pulling himself out of the game. How long he's going to be out, we don't know. He's going to get looked at today. But, man, that's the cornerstone of your starting rotation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not what you want to see from a team that has dug itself out of this incredible hole to start the season, has had their lineup twisted and turned because of injuries. And the one guy you can rely on, Pablo, ends up going on the IL. So hopefully he won't be on there very long.
Sucks.
Yep, hopefully he won't be on there very long.
The A's have lost 19 of their last 20 games and have been outscored by 95 runs over that time.
That's just – and you know what? They were supposed to be pretty decent.
They were doing all right a few weeks ago.
They got off to a good start.
Yeah.
They had a good April. They had a really good April, actually.
Another night game tonight with the A's. The Twins are going to try that Zebby Matthews kid out there on the bump.
Get used to this because they're going to have to, kind of put together a rotation with some of these young guys, and hopefully these guys will step up.
Here's a question from Aircraft Engineer Jesus. I sounded drunk when I said that. Aircraft Engineer Jesus. Back to the Vikings. Appreciate the question. I think the easy answer is no. He says if the Vikings win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years, would that diminish the legacy for the Vikings teams that we were discussing from the? Absolutely not.
You know what I've had this discussion with those guys. It will not diminish what they did, but it will take the pressure off of them. We won't be talking about how they lost 4 Super Bowls, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
They've always wanted this team, all of them have always wanted this team to win a Super Bowl, not just because they love the franchise, but because then we'll stop asking those guys about what it was like to play in the Super Bowl.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They want to be able to move on a little bit. So
have a team make the Super Bowl. Can you start calling those guys now and ask them about it?
Exactly. That's exactly
You
correct.
know, I mean, I was going to say, in some ways, if the Vikings did win a Super Bowl, even just like one Super Bowl, it might actually put some more positive light back on the fact that that team made it to 4.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it might be how hard it's been to get back. I mean, if we actually get back to one and win one, it might actually put a little bit more positive light on the fact they got to 4. I don't care if they won them or not.
4 in a 8-year period?
About 7 years,
right.
7, 8 years, yeah.
The Colorado Rockies reached double digits in wins the other night, and now they've won their first series of the season. Yes,
yeah.
They won back-to-back. They had won back-to-back games earlier this season, but this is their first series win. They've taken 2 of the first 3 games from a series with the Miami Marlins, and now they sit at a record of 11 wins and 50 losses. They could sweep the series today.
Think the Dodgers are worried in the NL West?
Without a doubt. The Rockies, if you include last season, they had lost 22 series in a row until last night.
That's just awful.
11 and 50. 26 games back.
Seattle Mariners pitcher George Kirby took a line drive to the face during his start last night against the Baltimore Orioles. Baltimore third baseman Ramon Urias was at the plate. He smashed a fastball right back toward the mound. It was traveling at 102.7 miles per hour.
A scary scene unfolding here as the at-bat ends for the Orioles. Kirby on the follow-through. He might have not seen this ball coming at him.
Well, it's just off to his left. You cannot get your head out of the way. That ball probably hit over 100 miles per hour.
To 103.
Yeah.
George Kirby was 27 years old.
Here's the thing about Seattle, and you have to be. I mean, George Kirby has been on the IL already this year. In fact, I think he started the season on the IL, and then he gets hurt last night. The Seattle Mariners are a half game behind the Astros in the West, and 3 of their 5 starting pitchers, their 3 best, some would argue, have been on the IL almost all season. They have patchworked their starting rotation because of all the injuries they've had, and they're still battling for first place. So this is a very unfortunate thing for them last night because Kirby was just starting to get back from the injured list and pitch.
Well, he's fine.
And they've got a great rotation.
Yeah,
I mean, when those guys are all healthy, that's one of the best rotations in baseball.
He did not pass away. He's fine. Yeah. The ball kind of struck him on his thumb and his jaw. It could have been much, much worse.
Yeah.
Later this summer, this is the first I've heard of this. Later this summer, the Cincinnati Reds and the Atlanta Braves are going to play a baseball game at Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee.
Oh, crazy.
I don't know. See, I'll have to see the setup for myself. Right now, I can't picture a ballpark at a racetrack.
That is so cool, though. Well, that's a lot of work.
If they can build a ballpark that, for major league standards, in Iowa, in Dyersville, they can build one at a racetrack. They can build one in a football stadium. They can build one at a racetrack.
This will be August 2nd. They're calling it the MLB Speedway Classic 25.
What do you think the temperature will be like in Tennessee on August 2nd?
Oh,
uncomfortable. Oh, my gosh.
That is something.
Man.
I'm looking at a mock-up right now online. If you Google the image it looks pretty sweet.
It's got to be the infield of the track has to be the field, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's going to be. I'll have to look further into this.
You know what, Nick?
Or maybe completely ignore it until the day it happens. Yes. What?
It's probably pretty similar to the NHL putting a hockey arena inside a football stadium for their classic in the wintertime.
Sure.
Right? It's kind of the same concept.
Yeah, I guess. Are they going to put up temporary bleachers, though? You need to be a little closer to a ball.
Yeah,
I
would think that they probably would, but then they would utilize the stands that they already have.
Right. But I mean, I would hope they'd build some bleachers because it'd be kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I guess depressing is the only word I can come up with for a bunch of foul balls just to be bouncing around a racetrack as opposed to the crowd getting their hands on the foul ball. And
the mock-up I'm looking at has bleachers behind home plate, down both base lines and the press box built behind it and stuff like that.
They got a lot of work to do over there. There's going to be a couple of musical acts, too, Josh, before the ball game. They're going to do a show with Pit Bulls.
Sure.
The Pit Bulls will be there. And Tim McGraw.
Now, that's a combination.
Weird.
I can't imagine that tour.
That is so weird.
Well, Tim McGraw makes sense because you're in the heart of country music territory.
Yeah.
Do you know the Pit Bulls?
I know who he is. I've seen him before, yeah.
So like 3 people in the crowd that are like, yeah, Pitbull.
You don't think
they probably don't share a lot of fans?
I'd say they're trying to draw in the younger crowd a little bit there, I think.
I'd go watch some Pitbull.
Josh, you know my sort of Tim McGraw, sort of Def Leppard story, where I was down in Mississippi back in the day when I used to go down that way quite often with my first wife. And he says, what a nightmare that was. I'm kidding. It wasn't that bad. And Tim McGraw played a show down there. And then on our way home from Mississippi, I was sitting on the airplane next to this guy, and I had to say something to the guy. I had to say, has anyone ever told you you look exactly like Rick Allen, the one-armed drummer from Def Leppard? And he said, yeah, that's my brother. His name was Robert Allen, and he was the manager for Tim McGraw. Are you following how that all came together?
Wow.
Yeah. Ended up sitting next to Robert Allen, the brother of Rick Allen, who managed Tim McGraw, who also managed AC/DC and Ozzy Osbourne in the 80s. It was the only plane ride I've ever enjoyed.
Yeah, he was a big-time manager.
I bet that guy's got stories.
I mean, he looked exactly like Rick Allen, only with a right arm. Or, pardon me, a left arm.
Both arms.
Both, yeah, you probably could say it that way. Let's see. Let me see if I can do the arithmetic here. 84, 94, 2004, 14, 24. This is the 51st anniversary. Today is the 51st anniversary of 10-cent beer night that went terribly wrong at the Cleveland Indians baseball game. 51 years ago today, they decided to put on an event called 10-cent beer night at Cleveland.
What could possibly go wrong?
Did they ever think it was going to go well?
What could possibly go wrong? Hey, I've got a great idea. Let's give beer out for 10 cents and see what happens.
Pretty much free.
It was just
the promotion staff is sitting there the next morning. You know what? I think we might have made a mistake there, boys.
A run-of-the-mill early June game.
Yeah, what? Not even a special game?
No, between
what could go wrong?
Cleveland Indians and Texas Rangers, and if you're an older person, you probably know that matchup wasn't going to draw a crowd, right?
Yep.
In 1974, there was nothing notable at all about the Cleveland Indians or the Texas Rangers, so that's probably why they came up with 10-cent beer night. And it went so friggin' sideways. Folks got so drunk and were beating each other up in the friggin' stands. The Indians had to forfeit the game. We can't go on.
Can you imagine going up to the concession stand? I will have 10 beers, please. No problem. That'll be $1.
Right. God help us all. The fans in Cleveland were so out of damn control, they had to call the game.
Kind of similar to that scene.
It reminds me a lot of, I mean, not a lot, but there wasn't alcohol. Well, there probably was alcohol involved, but back in the early 2000s when I was with the Twins, when we had Dollar Dog Night, Student Night, and Chuck Knobloch in left field on the same night.
Yep.
All right, that was a gong show.
Didn't even need Chuck Knobloch. Every Wednesday night, student night in the 2000s was just a disaster in the best possible way.
He was the match that lit that fire, though.
Student night at the Dome. I went to a few of those.
Oh, man. Things behind that. Remember they had that giant white curtain out in right field?
Yeah.
Some things went down behind that curtain on student nights. Some things happened.
Oh, man.
There might be a 20-something-year-old kid walking around right now.
Conceived back then?
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what, Brad. The one thing that I will never forget from the Metrodome is not on the field, or, I mean, obviously there was a lot of great things that happened. It's the walk from the parking lot underneath to the press box and the smell of the hot dogs.
Oh, yeah. Through that big old loading dock.
Brad, do you remember the smell?
Oh, Randy, my office was in the Metrodome.
Oh,
I smelled it for 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, my God. It was just so bad. Oh, my gosh.
And I've got stories about what they used to do with those hot dogs, too. So, I don't know.
I think every high school has that story.
I won't share, but otherwise I will.
Doesn't bother me, Brad Ryder.
You didn't want to eat a hot dog at the Metrodome on the 7th day of a 7-game homestand.
Wouldn't bother me.
Yeah, I'd roll the dice.
And I got to say that it wasn't just that specific area. Damn near anywhere you went in the old Metrodome, it smelled like stale hot dog water, and I friggin' loved it.
In the concourse area,
yes.
Sure, too, yes.
It always smelled like stale hot dog water, and it just made me want to deep throat a six-pack of those.
And, of course, the problem with the concourse of the Metrodome was it was so small and tight that you couldn't escape, man. There was no way.
Well, thankfully, a good stretch of time, those concourses weren't very packed during Twins games.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, there were some lonely nights over there. I suppose you could call it lonely nights.
Not on student night.
No, on student night,
you could meet somebody.
Yeah.
You
Another
would
good time to eat a hot dog there would have been the day after student night or after Dollar Dog night because you knew the hot dogs were fresh the next day.
I suppose, all new.
If you wanted to be intoxicated and molested, the night to visit the old Metrodome was on student night.
Oh, man.
Tonight on TNT, around 7 o'clock, you can see the Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers Stanley Cup final game 1. The rematch. State of hockey. By God, the rematch of last year's final. Man, the airplane rides during this series must be brutal. You're going from somewheres in Florida. Where do the Panthers play? St. Petersburg?
Sure.
To friggin' Edmonton? I wouldn't make it.
Brutal.
I wouldn't make it. I'd need some Xanax and some hard liquor because, as Josh knows, what could go wrong with that combination?
Well, that was a great combo for you in 2002. Well, that was rough.
It's very safe. They recommend that.
Is that the longest possible plane ride in professional sports?
Oh, I'm sure probably Florida to Seattle.
Seattle further than Edmonton?
I'm looking at a map right now. I'd say Edmonton.
Edmonton?
Edmonton, there we go. I was trying to say both at once there, Edmonton and Edmonton. Looks like Edmonton is further.
The longest, that's got to be the longest airplane ride in professional sports. But and don't text and say, well, what about when the teams play in London? We're talking about when they're, within the North America is how you say it. Anyway.
What is that plane ride? What's the time?
Yeah, Dana, what is it?
4 hours? Or?
Yeah, I'm looking.
4 hours? I bet it's...
Oh, is it more than that?
Oh, it's got to be more than that. But what do I know about air travel other than you should always take Xanax and hard liquor before you get on an airplane?
And be in a bad mood.
Be in a bad mood.
Hate the fact that you're traveling.
8 hours and 13 minutes.
8 hours and 13. Oh my God! You might as well just fly to freaking France or something.
What if they just said, "Hey, why don't we just meet in Kansas City? We'll play there."
Yeah.
That would be a good idea. They're so covered in metal. Jesus says San Diego to Toronto. No, Toronto's like right by Detroit. For Christ's sake, that ain't that. I mean, that's not good. I wouldn't want to go from San Diego to Toronto. Someone tells us Sunrise, Florida, is where the this is jiu-jitsu. Jesus, Sunrise, Florida, where's the Panthers play, and then Edmonton. That's 2,854.5 miles.
Wow.
State of hockey, my ass. Oh, by the way, and this happens every year, and some Minnesotans get all wound up over this, but don't get wound up over this. This means absolutely nothing. The list, a website called Wallet Hub, every year they release their list of the best cities in America for hockey, and this time around, and I believe last time around too, there were no Minnesota towns in the top 10 list of the best U.S. cities for hockey. St. Paul finished 13th, Bemidji 42nd, Minneapolis 48th, stupid St. Cloud 56th, Duluth 58th, Mankato 60th.
I was going to joke and bring up St. Cloud. I can't believe it actually made the list.
Well, yeah, I mean, so this is a very, what's the word I should use here, Josh? This is a very kind
divisive
list.
Yeah, people get pretty worked up.
They don't include women's hockey, girls hockey. They don't include youth hockey. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They base this mainly on the success of your professional team, and they factor in college teams. So, whatever. The top 10 goes St. Louis from 10 to 1, St. Louis, Buffalo, Tampa, Sunrise, Florida, Denver, Newark, New Jersey, New York City, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Boston. So, again, try not to get too mad about this because the way they factor all this together is silly. You're not going to include youth hockey at all? That's...
Some of the breakouts Minnesota did real well.
Breakouts?
Yeah, some of the breakouts, like best hockey team, stuff like that.
Okay. I didn't look into those further details.
Or, of course, hockey, like best college hockey, Division I, Division II. They kind of go through a bunch of lists.
What is this? What did I say? Mankato was where? Like 46th or 56th, right?
Yeah.
They used
64th.
64th. Yeah, they used the average age of the Mankato State players. And they came to 64. Thank you for that joke covered in metal, Jesus. Is this, Randy Shaver, you tell us, is this the time of year for track and field?
Yes, state high school track. I think it's this week.
Okay. The reason I ask is we've been bombed with track and field stories lately.
Sure.
On our favorite sports websites and whatnot, and you don't see that very often because it's not the most popular. But a lot of track and field. Randy Shaver, I'd love your take on this. A California high school track star, her post-race celebration resulted in her disqualification. So this was a California State Track Championships. A gal by the name of Clara Adams, a sophomore in high school, won the 400 meter foot race. She wins it all. I'm the champion of the 400 meter in the state of California. After the race, she runs away from the finish line, runs away from everyone. Her dad, who is her coach, is on the track, and they did a funny gimmick. Her dad handed her a fire extinguisher, and she sprayed it on her shoes as if they were on fire, right?
That's cute, yeah.
She was disqualified from the race. At that moment, she will not be receiving a medal or whatever you get for high school. The judges said that was inappropriate and unsportsmanlike. You're disqualified.
Oh, come on.
She's a kid.
Right.
My God.
She did not do this in the face of any of her, what do you call it in the business?
That would have been
opponents.
my point. Like, she wasn't taunting anyone.
No, she didn't.
It was just something cute she was doing with her dad.
Now, also, she was signed up for the 200 meter. But because she was disqualified for unsportsmanlike conduct, she wasn't allowed to run in that race where she was a heavy favorite to win a medal in that race as well. What are we so worried about here? That's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
too
that.
much.
Wasn't she paying tribute to a gold medal, like an Olympic gold medalist in track, Maurice Green?
That's what I heard, but
Are you familiar with that name, Randy?
Randy?
Yeah. Yes.
Maurice Green.
Like his teammates did that to him. They sprayed his feet. Same type of thing.
Yeah, I think you're right, Josh.
I think that's why she did it.
She did it. She borrowed the bit from some Olympic. An ultra-marathon runner lady. Who here has run an ultra-marathon? How
Twice
many
last
of you
year.
run?
Heck no.
Last year, Dana ran a couple of them. Randy, ultra-marathons?
No.
I've got a buddy that does every year.
It's 60 miles. And you
The
run.
one he does is 100 miles. He does a 50-mile one and a 100-mile
Well, that's an ultra-marathon when you run 100.
Super ultra.
Super ultra. Okay, this is 60 miles. They run over garbage piles and dead bodies, whatever. They say it's rough terrain. That's what makes it an ultra marathon. You jump over some dead carcasses and what. This gal won an ultra marathon. Her name is Stephanie. She won it, and she stopped 3 times to breastfeed her baby along the way, but still won the race.
Wow.
Badass. Women are cool.
That's a pretty cool flex, though.
Yeah, I bet the people that finish behind her feel kind of stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, you stopped 3 times?
Her husband brought their new baby to the race, and he hung out at the 20, the 50, and the 80 kilometer meter checkpoints, and he'd hand his wife the baby. You know, she's got her running shoes. She'd sit down. He'd hand the wife the baby. She'd pull out one of her cans, and she'd breast, and then she'd keep running.
You got to keep that schedule going.
Is that what it was, the schedule?
Yeah, you don't want to mess that up.
You do wonder why they didn't, just bottle feed her during the race.
She could have pumped, beforehand.
Maybe because they're hippies or something. Brad Ryder, what's your breastfeeding schedule?
And who's the source?
Well, I get on the air here with you guys at what time? 7:30. So about 7:20, I have to make sure that I do, and then by 9 o'clock again, I have to go again.
Man. We can tell when you haven't breastfed yet, Brad, because you get a little fussy.
Right.
Angry.
I do.
10 minutes before showtime, you take a hit.
Right.
To keep your energy up.
Right.
And we know, though, sometimes you have to drop off early. We know why, Brad. It's because you're hungry.
Sometimes nature calls, so you have to go.
By the way, the state track meet is next week. A lot of the high school championships are next week. It's Tuesday through Thursday. I know we're short on time. I was hoping
we got time.
I was hoping we'd get to Thibodeau today because I want to hear Brad's take. I want to hear Brad's take.
I just got a couple more things, then we'll get to Thibodeau. By the way, who is this? Who is this? Your mom's plumber, Jesus, texted in on the marathon runner lady who was breastfeeding her baby along the way. Your mom's plumber, Jesus, said, imagine the sweat on those knockers.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's going to be some transfer, I bet.
That's some salty milk.
Yes, Tom Thibodeau was relieved of his coaching duties by the New York Knickerbockers despite bringing them further than they've been in 25 years.
I would say it's surprising, but I'm not surprised.
No, you can't be these days. Ever. I'm never surprised by a coach firing these days because it's ridiculous.
And I think, I've been reading some stuff. I think the Knicks probably, and it's the thing that's weird about it, a lot of people don't realize this. The president of the Knicks right now was, in a former life, was Tom's agent. So they had a strong relationship. It wasn't that the management wasn't getting along. They weren't getting along like they didn't here. But I would keep an eye on Mike Malone, the guy who got let go in Denver. I think he's going to be a front runner for that job. And then there's a little bit of talk about Jay Wright, the former Villanova coach.
Sure.
Three of those guys on the Knicks.
Oh, right.
Brunson, Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges are all Villanova guys that won the national championship those couple of years with Villanova.
Right.
So those are. But like I said, I'm not surprised, but it is a little surprising.
It's stupid. It's friggin' stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not even a Tibbs fan. And then a lot of folks are picking, Carl's gotten him fired twice and all this stuff.
That's
crap.
No.
I don't like Tibbs, but he just did not deserve to be. There are so many. We could do this all day long, coaches that haven't deserved to get the axe.
Not to have an on-air production meeting here, but I am going to try over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to reach out to, probably not today, but sometime later this week. I'm going to try to reach out to him and see if we can get him on.
Tibbs?
To talk to him, yeah, if you guys want to talk.
Well, is he a fun person to talk to?
He would be good on the radio, yeah.
What if we bust his balls about...
That's fine.
He's not going to care if we bust his balls?
No.
All right, go ahead.
Wow.
Okay.
All right, yeah, thank you, Brad.
I'm going to try. I'm not sure he will, but I'm going to try.
That's a cool idea, sure.
I know in the year that he was off, after he got let go from here and he hung around the area for a while, he was a little bit of a different guy in a good way when he doesn't have a job. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous.
I got some friends who are the same way, man.
I think I understand.
But I went out for lunch a handful of times with him in that year that he wasn't working. You know what I mean? Like he's a different guy. He's like a little bit more relaxed, and so I'm going to try to see if I can get him on.
Ron Artest says he'll coach the Knicks.
And who is that next coach in your mind? Who should be the next coach?
Only one person. Ain't many people. Me.
That's Ron Artest. The Lynx are perfect on the season. They won last night. They're 8-0.
Fabulous.
Danny Ainge, the CEO of the Utah Jazz, just hired his son to be the president of basketball operations.
Oh, my gosh.
Come on.
Bronny?
Oh, my gosh.
Who?
Bronny?
No, yes, Bronny Ainge. Yes.
Bronny Ainge.
Danny Ainge's son, Bronny, is now
Oh, my gosh.
I bet you that Bronny Ainge also was the starting point guard on all the youth basketball teams that Danny coached when he was a kid. What a joke. Oh, I suppose we can just hire my kid. Well,
I wonder who's really running it.
Come on, man. And before we go, back to football real quick. New York Jets head coach Aaron Glenn. Is he brand new, or did he have that job last year?
No, he was with the Lions. He was the
right.
DC for the Lions.
Yeah. Right. Defensive, how do you say that, Josh?
And?
Defensive
coordinator.
Right. He was the defensive coordinator for the Lions. Now he's the new head coach of the New York Jets. He's reportedly, he's starting to get the team together now. It's what do they call it? OTAs and all that boring crap.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to include Bible study into the team's training.
Sounds
So
awful.
do you want to hear the joke?
Sure.
Even God is saying, look, fellas, there's only so much I can do. Even a divine miracle can't save that organization. That's what God is saying right now.
Well, but you know what? He said the same thing to the Timberwolves, and look what happened. So miracles can happen.
God is saying, don't put that on me, New York Jets.
Yes, don't blame me.
Yeah. All right.
Real quick, back to the ultra marathon. East Winstead Jesus says, I've done a Michelob ultra marathon. I now understand why marathon runners wear diapers.
All right, guys. Thanks very much.
You bet.
We'll talk to you soon. We'll return here in a few minutes on the Half-Assed Morning Show.
The 93X Half-Assed Morning Show.
On 93X.
Hey, podcast pals. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Take it from me, as a newly married guy with a very opinionated dog, comfort is kind of important right now. That's why I'm a Smart Club member of Standard Heating. I get to schedule service when it actually works for me, pay how I want, and choose what fits our home best. Pick the HVAC company that treats you like family, not just another name on the list. That's Standard. Check out standardheating.com and tell them Dana sent you.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
I am Michael Rosenbaum.
I am Tom Welling.
Welcome to Talkville,
where it's fun to talk about Smallville.
We're going to be talking to sometimes guest stars. Are you liking the direction Lois is going in?
Yeah, because I'm getting more screen time.
It's good. But mostly it's just me and Tom remembering.
I think we all feel like there was a scene missing here.
You got me, Tom.
Let's revisit it. Let's look at it. See what we remember.
See what we remember.
I had never been around anything like that before. I mean, it was so fun.
Talkville. Talkville.
I just had a flashback.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Let's get into it.
Half-Assed Morning Show.
It's not just the swearing. Did one of you fornicate?
Fornicate? Look, I've boned a lot of chicks in my time, sure. But as far as I can recall, I've never fornicated anybody.
93X.
All right, it's 8:32 here on the midweek version of the 93X Half-Assed Morning Show, and what a deal that is. Thank you for listening. Here we sat. Our first week back to work after some time to ourselves. We had last week off. So, I'm sure I'm not the only one. These first 3 days of the work week, that godforsaken alarm clock cutting loose on me at 3:30 in the morning has been jarring.
Yeah, it's this week I've been very tired, which is ridiculous. We had last week off, but I can't figure out how to go to bed.
I've been waking up before my alarm every day this week. It's very annoying.
That sucks, but
I
at
hate
least
that
you
feeling.
don't have the jar. That's the word
Mine's
that
been
keeps
jarring
coming.
as well.
Yeah, it's when you go without an alarm for a stretch of time and then it makes its way back into your life. It's unnerving. It's distressing.
And I've been making bad choices because of my exhaustion. Last night I realized as I was, I couldn't fall asleep, so I started reading this book that I've been into. Near Dark, Brad Thor, book 19 in the Scott Harbath series. And it's a library book. And I was eating popcorn at the same time. So I realized I was touching a shared book in Dakota County and then placing my fingers into my mouth, essentially.
Yeah, there's worse counties to do that from.
I hate when I notice that I've been doing something like that, Josh, or if I'm walking around a mall and I'm touching stuff and then I get a pretzel with cheese. Then I'm like, oh, I just put a lot of germs in my mouth.
I would never notice anything like that.
This book is worn. It has been used.
Oh.
So, that's not a good idea for a guy whose immune system is clearly broken.
Oh, it's been worked.
Yeah, you're going through something.
Yeah, I realized that shortly afterwards.
The alarm clock has been jarring, to say the least, these first 3 days. So let me have it now. Ollie is here in the room. And our listening audience, 651-989-9393. What's a sound you hear that instantly makes you angry for no logical reason?
Well, I can't say
for no logical reason. Well, so you tell me, Josh, you're a logical person, and you might be able to understand this better than I. Getting angry at my alarm clock, is that logical?
That's logical.
Okay, that's
yeah.
logical.
Yes.
So we're not going to include, but
like if you're watching a show and I don't get angry, but if it's the same alarm I have on my phone, it's like
it triggers.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh gosh, I don't like that sound.
I have a lot of these.
You have a lot of sounds that make you angry for no logical reason.
Yeah, or I guess one of them is logical.
What would that be?
That would be, I'm actually very angry right now, and I love this restaurant, Wingstop. They have amazing wings.
Sure.
They were running a commercial for a while, though, that had a doorbell in it. And it was during, they were running it on football Sundays. So
Sure.
obviously I'm watching the TV, and it would make my dogs go ballistic. So I didn't, while they were running that commercial, I refused to go there because I was mad about the doorbell.
Logical or illogical, I'm not sure how I would define that, but I understand.
And then the
dogs go crazy. It disrupts your peace and quiet,
Yeah.
and it's all the fault of these folks who sell chicken wings.
Yes, and you know it's coming. Every time the commercial would come on, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go.
Could just hit mute.
I guess so. And then the one that's very illogical is the fan that is over the stovetop.
Fan that is over
that
the
makes you
The
stove.
vent? Yeah. I don't know what it is.
I
it's
love
just
that
like
sound.
overstimulating, and so I don't turn it on.
Is it broken or something? Is it louder
No,
than it should be?
It's the sound of a
Just
normal one.
The typical sound of a
Yep.
fan over the top of a stove gets
gosh,
you
I hate
pissed
it.
off.
And my fiance will come in and say, why don't you have the fan on? Because I hate it. Don't turn it on. He turns
What about the old fart auger? You got a problem with that one, too, on the topic of fans? What about the fart auger?
Yeah, I don't like that
You
one
don't like
either.
that one
Nope.
either?
I don't have any that make me mad, but one that disgusts me are mouth noises for whatever reason.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I think a lot of it, I never really noticed it too much until like editing dialogue and things like that. You have headphones and you hear it. And so I always try and remove as much as possible in anything I'm editing.
When you edit commercials and whatnot, I mean, you get it right down to you're very specific when you edit audio, so I can understand you're hearing all of those.
Oh, God.
I hate those noises.
Yeah, and I can understand how that would be grating, but that sounds logical to me. Your stove fan is very illogical.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe we shouldn't focus so much on what's logical and what's not. I mean, it doesn't. What's a sound you hear that instantly makes you angry for no logical reason? And now the texts are coming in, and that's what we're looking for. 651-989-9393. The first one I read was someone who texted in, that dumb Vikings horn. He doesn't like that sumbitch
Is
at all.
it a 715er?
It's been erased at this point.
Gotcha, it moved on.
Okay. Thank you for your texts. We'll try to keep up with them as best we can, but they come in fast and furious. Here are some of the popular responses from the internet on a sound that instantly makes you angry for no logical reason. Boy, I've experienced a lot of this lately. Styrofoam rubbing on styrofoam.
Oh, I hate that.
Oh, yeah, that one kind of makes my shoulders do a little twerk here.
Yes, the reason I've experienced a lot of that lately is I've had a lot of new furniture and whatnot delivered to the house, and my God, I am, Josh, in Hennepin County, I'm the king of cardboard and styrofoam from having all these...
Got a lot of it?
I'm getting rid of it slowly but surely. But
I love breaking down boxes. Do you like that, John?
I have no problem. I have no problem breaking down boxes. I enjoy it. But when the styrofoam gets involved, I do get friggin' pissed.
Yeah.
And when the styrofoam makes a mess too, it kind of crumbles a little bit.
I know.
And I must clean up every little speck of it. So styrofoam rubbing on styrofoam, that sound absolutely unnerving.
I forgot I wanted to mention, Nick, I know one that makes you turn into a little bit of a psycho lately is when you accidentally hit your bell.
Yes. I enjoy using the bell for on-air purposes. When I bump, I don't know why. You're right. This is wildly illogical. When I bump into it while I'm working off air and just kind of like I get friggin' pissed. I
get it. I understand. I would too.
This is a good one, and it's not necessarily a particular sound, but when commercials are way louder than the show. And I know specifically television, they're doing their best to, there's actually very specific rules now on loudness levels for commercials just to try and balance that out. But that is quite jarring. Like if you're listening to a podcast, and if you have a good podcast editor, that's not going to happen. But sometimes, right, where that comes on and then your ears are gone.
That's funny. So we end a break by saying, we'll be right back on the Half-Assed Morning Show. John's Pizza in Fridley is having a sale. It'll knock you right out of your shoes. All right, here's a sound that makes some people angry for no logical reason. Microwaves that keep beeping after you've opened the door. I got no problem with beeping microwaves. But
my dryer sings to me every 15 minutes if I don't go get the clothes out.
Yeah, me too, and it makes me really angry.
It's like, I know!
It just beeps?
It plays like a little jingle.
Oh.
Yeah, mine will re-spin, and that makes me mad because for some reason in my head, I imagine that every spin that this wash machine or dryer has to do is $50 more.
Would it bother you if, I have an app that I use specifically because it's crazy annoying, and it's a reminders app? Because sometimes I notice, if I had a regular one, it would say, hey, don't forget to do this. I'm like, oh, word, thanks a lot for reminding me, and then I completely tune out and I forget.
I have a lot of notifications turned off for a lot of my apps that it F's me over in the long run, Josh, because I get so annoyed about getting notifications or something like that over and over and over again. That would make me insane.
So Josh, were you saying you intentionally made your, what did you call it again?
It's a reminders app, and its intention is to make it annoying. So that's the way it's designed.
No,
so you won't ignore it, and you will be reminded.
It'll keep saying, until you tell it, I've finished this task, it'll keep saying, it's like the mom bit from Family Guy. Mom, mama, mom. That type of thing. That's what it does to you.
Josh, that would make me crazy.
A sound that makes folks angry, maybe for no logical reason at all. Who in their right mind doesn't climb the walls when they hear the chirp of a dying battery in a smoke detector?
Oh, and it's so loud, and it's hard. Sometimes for me, I have trouble telling which direction it's coming from.
Mm-hmm. You're not the only one. I think everyone has, because now we keep 5-6 of them in the house. I remember when I grew up, we never had a smoke detector. When we finally got one, there was just one in the middle of the house. Now people want them in every friggin' room. Yeah, you can't tell where it's coming from. I had the worst damn time years ago, staying at a girlfriend's house, middle of the night. I'm trying to get some sleep so I can come into this stupid program. Trying to get some sleep, and I hear the smoke detector chirping, and it's loud, and you have to deal with it if you want to sleep. Maybe some folks can just move on with their lives, but I was trying to sleep. And this gal's apartment had high ceilings. The girlfriend whose place I was staying at, she's out of town. I don't know where she keeps a ladder. I walk around her apartment. She doesn't have a ladder. I have to call the superintendent at 2 o'clock in the morning. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's exhausting.
The dog's going crazy because of the chirp. It tortures his ears. Okay.
There's a couple good ones coming in regarding commercials, on that topic. Sirens in commercials when they're driving, dogs in commercials, doorbells. And I'll tell you, I've changed how I produce commercials because of listeners telling me things like that I wouldn't consider. We're not driving. When you produce these, there's a cop sound that's needed or a horn. I don't put those in commercials anymore because it scares the bejesus out of people or gets their dog going like crazy with the doorbell.
Right. Do you guys know what this means? The Microsoft Teams alert?
Thankfully, I've never had to use that.
Well, isn't it the same alert as the Microsoft. What's their Outlook?
Oh,
is that the same
all right.
alert?
If it is, then yeah, that I can see that being annoying.
All right, smacking your mouth when eating. Sure. Folks who eat loudly. Josh mentioned just overall mouth noises.
Cleavage to Beaver Jesus mentions, he's like, don't you have that app or whatever that picks up mouth noises? Yeah, so I do have a couple of audio editing tools where you can isolate the sound you don't want just to make sure you're not taking out sounds you do want, if that makes sense, right? It says this is what we're taking out. So you can listen to just the mouth noises. I did play that on, he remembers I did play that on the air once, and it was from a clip where you couldn't really hear a lot of mouth noises, but I played it just to show you how much there actually is in regular dialogue, and my God, it was disgusting. I don't think I could do that to people again.
Sounds that make us pissed off for no logical reason. When a fork scrapes a plate, doesn't bother me.
Oh, I don't like that sound. I mean, everyone says nails on a chalkboard, right? Certainly.
Right.
Oh,
Snoring, a cat about to puke, a dog licking its crotch.
This person doesn't like whistling. Well, you wouldn't have liked growing up in my house.
A lot of whistlers?
Yeah, my mom and aunt were a couple of whistlers.
Oh, yeah?
They
Like the type where you put your thumb and your index finger and make the circle.
No,
and make the
just
thing?
whistling tunes.
Oh, okay.
A happy tune. A lot of folks out there hate Cotton Eye Joe. Let's take a break. We got to take a look at these text messages. A lot of them coming in on the noises that make you angry for no logical. I'll go right along with that Cotton Eye Joe crap. I will. Lots of folks have checked in. That's exactly what we were looking for. Lots of folks have checked in, and what we've been jaw-jacking about the last handful of minutes. What's a sound you hear that instantly makes you angry for no logical reason? Here are some answers from the proud brother and sisterhood out there. People blowing their noses. Bothers me sometimes, especially when it's quite chunky.
Oh.
Yeah, when you hear something pop out.
Popping. There's popping. There's sometimes, it's obvious there's a lot of mass. That will trouble me, but your average nose blowing, I can live with that.
I notice Ashley leaves the studio when she has to blow her nose.
Yeah, I do. I'm self-conscious about it.
Are you?
Yep.
You can do that in here, whatever you want.
Thank you.
This person said, my wife on the toilet after a big salad. It sounds like a terrorist attack.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
Salad does it to her, huh?
Okay.
Why are you standing that close to the door?
I didn't know salad was that. I'll tell you what, I mentioned before, my grandma, she thought once you closed the door in the bathroom, it also was soundproof. Didn't matter where you were in the house, you heard what was going on.
Now, here's a bathroom example as well, Josh. A lady in our listening audience said, I was just in a gas station bathroom last week, and the lady next to me was making so much noise, like straining. You know, like, our listener said it almost sounded sexual. Well, it's possible this lady was playing with herself. But the listener is leading us to believe that this was just your typical straining. And that's difficult to listen to. I can understand that. Try and,
that.
I mean, like Josh was saying, there's going to be some rough exits from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can do about that. Nothing you can do about that. But I think you can control your grunting and your straining noises.
It wasn't grunting, but it was just weird. Yesterday at the bathroom here at work, somebody was in the stall, and it sounded like there was a gerbil or hamster in there that got a hold of the toilet paper. How fast? I've never heard somebody do. Must have been two-handing as fast as he could to get that toilet paper
Weird.
out.
Like an Olympic event?
Yeah, it was the strangest thing.
Maybe they were bleeding.
I don't know. They might have been bleeding out. I waited as long as I could to find out who it was because I had to know what the heck was going on and what the emergency was.
Same with you, Josh, in the bathroom, where it does make me angry. It just kind of it makes me confused and have questions is when somebody's having a phone call while they're in the stall taking a dump. It's like, who are you talking to? Do they know what you're doing right now?
Must be important.
Couldn't this be a text message maybe?
Yeah, there's a couple repeat offenders in this building.
Sounds that make you angry for no logical reason. More answers from our listening audience. The rattling sound in your car when driving. Yes, yep. I have to stop and correct that. That's probably my OCD at play. But yeah, when there's a rattle on the inside of the vehicle, I have to find out the source. I cannot drive with that rattle.
My daughter texted me today with a picture of a part of her car just fell off today. She's had some things rattling. She's going to need a new one pretty soon. And she lost a part on the road today.
Something just fell right off the car?
I think a heat shield for the catalytic converter. I think that's what it
Oh, that sucks.
The sound of, speaking of being inside the car or motor vehicles in general, the next couple cover that. Your blinker, the click, 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 click.
Oh, I kind of like that sound.
Yeah, it's kind of soothing.
This listener, it makes him illogically angry. Oh, I love this. This is a sound that I truly love, but there's one member of our listening audience who friggin' hates it. And that is a big fat ass Jake break. I love a Jake break.
Oh yeah,
I don't mind.
If I'm zoned out and it's behind me, I might not like it so much, but I like the sound of that too.
I don't mind if it's right next to me on the road. I don't mind if I hear it from miles away, but I love a good burp.
Yeah.
Candy Jesus doesn't like it when someone loudly and suddenly and excessively clears their throat.
Loud burps. People who purposely try to make their burps louder to be funny. It's gross and annoying. Why? Says one of our listeners.
Yeah, 100%.
Appliance installer Jesus says people who just suck up that little bit of pop or water in the bottom of the cup through a straw, even though you're never going to get it, but they still try.
Specifically through a straw. Back to the motor vehicle. The seatbelt dinger.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like, Dana, you were saying that your dryer alarm pisses you off because you say to yourself, yes, I know I need to get down there and empty the dryer. With the seatbelt dinger, every time I say to myself, yes, I know I should put on my seatbelt, stop dinging.
My vehicle that I have now is the fastest it's ever been. Like the seatbelt beep.
Like you might as well put the seatbelt on before you start the car?
Yeah, honestly. It's like, okay, just give me 3 seconds.
Do I understand this properly, Josh? They simply texted in gas app ads. I was picturing when you go pump gas and they've got the video rolling.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've been to those gas stations.
But that's not what they mean.
Oh, I'm assuming that's what they mean.
Oh, is that what they mean?
Oh, they said app. Okay, so yeah, maybe not. Sure, I've heard those.
Yeah.
What about the people who bite down on eating utensils? And they kind of scrapes the fork
yeah,
or
that's
whatever
disgusting.
it is.
I never noticed such things. I never noticed such things.
What's wrong with you?
Yes.
Oh, somebody doesn't like it when they're standing at a crosswalk and you keep hearing the light going, wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh.
Wait.
Wait.
That is
Wait.
funny.
Why do they have to say it so often?
We get it, lady.
Trying to help you from killing yourself. Some of these are very specific, and that's exactly what we were looking for in our conversation about noises that make you angry for no logical reason. Here's someone who, for a living, restocks shelves at a grocery store. And specifically when he or she are restocking the chip aisle, the constant sound of crunching makes them insane.
Yeah, I can see that.
The sound of wind blowing when you're watching a video on Facebook or TikTok. You know, where hey, we're at the Shania Twain concert. I can't even do it, because our microphones won't allow, but the wind overmodulates the video. It makes some people out there crazy.
Oh, they won't allow us to do that. I tried to do it. I was like, it didn't really come across, did it?
I can't imitate it.
Oh.
I can't imitate it.
I'm retiring for real this time. I promise, Jesus. Whispering makes him very angry for some reason.
When people are whispering and it's louder than they would if they would just talk, that annoys me.
A lot of times, that's kind of how it goes, right?
Especially when they're drunk.
I'll try anything 4 times. Jesus doesn't like it when there's police sirens and porn because it always makes him think he's about to get pulled over. I better put my phone down here.
All right, I'm going to close you out with 3 finals. Farting ketchup bottles.
Yeah.
Crunchy snow. And a quaif.
We've learned through many, many contests on the show, you can tell the difference between a quaif and a fart.
You can.
With enough practice.
If you practice and listen closely.
Go ahead, Ashley. Sorry. You were saying something?
I was just going to mention that I, especially the ketchup bottles, those making noise when you're towards the end of them. Every single time that happens, I know my fiance is going to say something, and I'm at the point where I'm just going to chuck the bottle at him.
He's going to say something?
Yeah, he's always like, ha, 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 ha.
He finds it.
Excuse you. And I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, that's stupid.
That's funny. I sometimes live my life that way too, Ashley. While I'll avoid something, simply because I don't want the response I know a particular person's going to give.
Yes.
You know exactly where they're going to go, and
Yes.
it's like, all right, I guess I'm just going to avoid this because I don't need to hear that.
That is so mean.
Happy birthday to Ryder, a.k.a. Rai Stink Eye, turning the big 06 today from Dad, Muscle, Dilf, Jesus, Jell, Remy, Frankie, and Reese. Happy birthday to April, a.k.a. HVAC Cheeses from Trash Can Jesus. Happy 27th to Wyatt Jesus. Happy birthday to my cousin Aiden. And text the word booze, B-O-O-Z-E, like the drink, booze, to 651-989-9393 for a chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to the 93X Half-Fast Morning Show Booze Cruise, Friday, June 27th on the Stillwater Riverboats. Again, the Luther Bloomington Kia text line 651-989-9393, keyword booze. If you miss it this time, it's all good. Keep listening. Plenty of chances to get aboard before the big boat cruise. Prize provided by Warner's Dock and Red Wing Shoes. Good luck.
93X Half-Assed Morning Show.
Hey, podcast pals. Today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Take it from me as a newly married guy with a very opinionated dog. Comfort is kind of important right now. That's why I'm a Smart Club member of Standard Heating. I get to schedule service when it actually works for me, pay how I want, and choose what fits our home best. Pick the HVAC company that treats you like family, not just another name on the list. That's Standard. Check out standardheating.com and tell them Dana sent you.